we've been talking about, and Mr. Dunn mentions it multiple times, is the bench strength. It's very tough to have an IT when you're a solo IT person and you're not here for any reason, and you have all the passwords and the documentation and the information. And so having multiple people in an IT department for backup and redundancy, and it's increasing our opportunities. Whether or not vendors go for it or allow us, we try as many things as we can to work together. We've done that in the past, and we just continue to expand on that in the future. For example, years ago, we joined together and got a backup and disaster recovery solution for the entire town, and we bundled that together for some savings. We've been looking at, in the future, of merging our phone system into one giant phone system for the school district. That's something that we can work on down the road. And so the the information sharing between the schools and the town has been incredibly helpful, along with having a part-time person to take some of the daily, kind of day-to-day, changing out of printer cartridges, installing new computers, replacing things, and that's kind of lets us focus on more of the network level cybersecurity items that take place every day. So I just want to share, and I wanted to say a thank you to this board and everybody. There was Board of Selectmen was involved as well, but this board and everybody was involved in supporting and deciding to move forward with this. I think it's been a great benefit for the town. I'm just going quickly through each budget item, and I just have these up here just really for talking points for us. Dan and I will do this together and we'll jump in. Really the biggest change you see in the equipment and repair budget is a small increase, contractual increase for Kronos for maintenance and support. Typical of vendors to have a 5% increase every single year. We see it pretty much across the board, so that's what the $335 increase is to this budget line. Yep.
It's $335?
From
Yeah.
6688 to 7024, yeah.
No. Yes. Okay. Yep.
So I'm
I'm
not.
thinking it was millions.
Oh no. Sorry. Yeah. Dollar. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have that many time flex.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah. I'm not a math person, so I let the computer do it for me.
I looked at that as a bigger number. Yeah.
It was like
that as a much bigger number.
In our communications line, you'll see our typical inflationary contractual increases. A couple software and subscription licenses for additional users. For example, it was brought to our attention this year that the Board of Ethics members were using personal email addresses, which are subject to FOI and all of the other town regulations and such. So we brought them into our system just like every other board has a Brookfield email address. And that's just an example of some of the additions that we had to add. This also includes the Code Red, bringing back the Code Red community communication platform that Mr. Dunn had brought in, I think before the pandemic.
During the pandemic.
It was during the pandemic, thank you. I'm trying to remember that. And that brings that back in. The other thing we're looking at is a town website upgrade, which I'll explain on the next slide, and Dan will jump in as well and explain as well. There's a reason for the upgrade. There's a few reasons actually for the upgrade. And then along with that, one thing we've been paying for with our website provider is a paid service for live streaming of meetings such as this. However, we have pretty much at this point
Completely transitioned to
completely
YouTube.
transferred to YouTube, which minus any hardware costs is a free service. It's been more common, so we're removing that from the agreement with our website provider. This is just kind of a comparison of year to year because you will see a big jump in this budget line. But some of it is offset by a software budget line, which I'll get to in a couple slides. So currently this year we're paying just over $5,600 for our website. The website is just what you see when you go to brookfieldct.gov. It's managed by the departments, us in IT, and that is it. And then separately we have a product called Seamless Docs, which is online fillable forms. You might see equivalent to like a DocuSign. Dan, is there any other way you want to explain?
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like we use it, a couple departments use it to take information and also take payments. So like say for the town clerk's office, if you want to get a copy of your marriage license or death certificate, there's a fillable form on Seamless Docs where you can pay the fee ahead of time rather than have to bring cash or check into the office because we don't accept credit cards in the office. So the Seamless Docs is basically, like, we use it for fillable forms, payment acceptance, but with the new site, they have their own built-in modules. So basically, rather than use a separate piece, we wanted to integrate it all into one unit and get a bit of savings out of it that way.
So that's going to be like a checkout website with forms and checkout and everything?
Yep, so yeah, so the same way we have like the PDF you can fill in now through Seamless
Yeah.
Docs, the option in the website is going to be very similar, where you have the form you can fill out right as part of their thing. It emails off to the department for their approval, their processing and everything.
And one of the other things I want to note is part of the reason for this conversation is due to the upgrade of the website, which we're proposing, but also Seamless Docs has been historically for the last couple of years
About a 10%
about a
increase per year.
10% increase in fees, and 5 has been typical for software vendors, but 10 multiple years in a row is starting to get a little much. And so we started to kind of look at alternative solutions anyway, and then the conversation with the website company happened. You see, obviously, Code Red was not in the budget, and then all the other vendor costs were $77,000. Come over to this year's budget, the website with the Seamless Docs alternative is about $20,000 a year. And then this year there's a one-time website upgrade fee, basically for the company to do the work to migrate everything that's on the current website to their new version of the website. There's a couple reasons for this. The version of the website on the back end that nobody sees that we manage is going end of life. It's out of date, and so they're trying to.
What software?
It's
It's
called
Drupal. It's basically a content management system. They're on version 7, which technically was supposed to end support a few years ago, but they kept extending the life of it.
Okay.
So this year, basically, their ultimatum was either we upgrade you to the newer version of this old system, or we want to migrate you to our new system, completely different platform that they're fully supporting going forward. Basically, the old system we're using now was inherited when they bought another company, so they've been trying to kind of sunset that and move people over to the new one when possible.
And actually, speaking of that, is part of the website provider trying to sunset the current version that we're on and move us over to the other one. You will see the website one-time upgrade fee of $10,000. I thanks to Dan for taking the lead on a lot of this work and discussion with the company. That is actually a 75% discount. This is how badly they want their clients to move over, but it's kind of one of those you got to act now, because eventually we didn't dive into why it would cost $40,000, but we're hoping to do it for $10,000 as a one-time, and we understand that moving not only you have design and implementation of the website, but frankly
Years of
data,
content, yeah.
years of content and data, and then lining the data up with where it is now on the website and matching to where it's going to go on the new website while making it easier for clients is a very time-consuming process. So data migration is the biggest chunk usually of any kind of increase. And
While they're doing that, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the websites with documents and everything. Is there a policy about archiving stuff? I mean, is there a retention policy for town documents?
There's,
maybe you could-
unfortunately, through the state library, it's a bit varied.
Okay.
The typical thing is, as long as we have, like, say for agendas and minutes, as long as the town clerk has their copy in the vault,
Yeah.
there's no specific time on retention for the website. For videos and stuff, like the YouTube videos, they say, minimum 6 months. We don't have to keep it past that. And even with that, like, we don't technically have to record the meetings.
Yep.
So they are going to go through a little bit of it with us for the data retention of purging things that we have in multiple places.
Okay.
It's been a slow project, even just here in-house, like manually going, like say your old minutes from 2018.
Yeah.
We had it on the website and in the agenda management system and in the town clerk system.
Yep.
Part of it, we will be working through them. Their main thing is copying bit for bit, so it's an exact match, but
Yeah.
we meet up with them to see about what we can isolate and streamline a bit.
Okay.
And we're married to the vendor? Or are we looking for
They
fresh
are
code?
the major vendor for municipal websites, so it's pretty much like a 99% guarantee that they're the best fit for us.
Okay.
We have looked at a couple other ones. Honestly, feature-wise, I mean, even like the ability to do the payment acceptance built in is something that a lot of the vendors don't have the same level of integration at the municipal thought process of it.
It is a $30,000 cost.
Yeah. And like we said, with that, I mean, that out of that $20,000 on the yearly, we are cutting the $12,000 or $13,000 from Seamless Stock, so it is saving there. And actually, I do have a couple talking points. It is adding a few extra features. One of the biggest things is the Americans with Disabilities Act, the compliance. We have basic compliance like now. If you hover over a picture, it shows a subtitle on it. One of the features that they're adding in with this new website is a full accessibility suite where you can go in, you can change the colors, the contrast, have it read things out loud to you, basically getting us in compliance for when the mandates come through in the next couple of
It's
years.
coming through,
Yep.
yes.
And then the only other thing I'll note is you'll see the proposed cost of the Code Red platform, and then all the other costs of the vendors that you see there that get us to the 116,356 for that budget line. And again, you will see a not net, but there is the $12,000+ reduction of Seamless Docs on the other end to move that into the website platform. Is there any other questions on this account line, or do you want to save them for the end?
For the end.
Okay. Just some quick line. Two of the lines, other lines don't have any changes in them. They've remained flat. The only other one was travel and conference. It was cut in 23, I think our note said.
I can't remember specifically, but yeah, we did scale back on going to in-person conferences for a while.
So, and I forgot to put the dollar amount there, but it was $330 for some in-state conferences during the year, and then the government IT organization for collaboration. The other big jump in our budget is with department-specific supplies. One of the things that we took an initiative on in the merger was proposing the development of a 5-year life cycle replacement plan. Very common and I'm talking about desktop and laptop computers for staff. And 5 years is a very common cycle of device replacement, and so we took all of the devices that we did a whole inventory of the entire town and the police department of the devices that we have. Excuse me. And we broke that out among what staff use daily and then what's considered a public kiosk. If you've ever walked in the town clerk office, you probably see 3 or 4 machines that the public use when they're looking up records or anything like that. Those don't necessarily have to be replaced at a 5-year life cycle, just because they're not used every single day. They can be hand-me-downs or anything like that. So what we've proposed is a plan to have a 5-year life cycle replacement on computers that are used daily and actually get their full use.
So are you saying
Okay,
that
so on the number here,
Yes.
is that, it'll be that same number basically for the next 5 years plus inflation, or is there some catch-up component into this request?
We've been doing our best to catch up, even a little bit, like if we have extra money after our regular supply orders. For the most part, this is going to be the going forward thought. I mean, like you said, I quoted these computers at being like $800 to $900 a piece. If there's certain ones that end up being a bit higher price, we'll probably look at it. But we're hoping that this is pretty much our baseline going forward to start with.
so our most of our computers are
Okay.
used just for,
So
basic
yeah,
stuff.
so out of
basic stuff, right?
about 120 devices we have in the building, probably 70, 80 of them are like the actual day-to-day. Is like Marsha has her laptop. I've got my old laptop here from 2018. So they're typically the day-to-day devices. Either the workstation's at a desk, one like Marsha's where she moves it from the desk to home, or we have a few users where we have a dedicated desk station and then a laptop to access it remotely, because certain things are bound to our physical location.
Right, but I was trying to understand the use of the devices, right?
Yeah, so they're
My
pretty much like
device is just
the
for
day-to-day
email-
use.
For my email, for my Excel, for my Word, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So for
each-
that, isn't 900 a higher price?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, the inflation has. I mean, when I first started working on the school side, I was buying staff laptops for $499,
Yeah.
and business models, not personal that you go to Best Buy and buy. You have to buy the business models. They have usually it's metal, better parts. They do last a little bit longer. And unfortunately, just given inflation and then now a big question mark on tariffs.
Unfortunately.
I haven't seen the last round of computers I bought for the new elementary school were between $750 and $800. And so unfortunately the days of buying business computers for $500 does, I hope is not a thing of the past, but right now we have not seen
We have
anything
not
that
seen.
low, unfortunately. Because you're right, a lot of computing today is cloud computing now.
Right,
Right,
and so
yeah.
it's about 12 to 13 computers every year. Is that what you're estimating?
Pretty close to it at least,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, there are a few cases, like we said, like we're going to do, if we replace a workstation in the department, we'll take that one that's still usable, put it in the public kiosk spot, so we at least are cycling those out, but they won't be as fresh as the department ones. There are a few places where we can probably look at using Chromebooks, but for the most part, since we're using like the full Microsoft Office suite, since the departments have specialized software, we do have to stick with like a full Windows computer rather than going the less expensive route.
So
on some of them.
Microsoft Office 365 online,
We do have the online part. Unfortunately, the online
does
part doesn't
everybody need the
include.
desktop?
There are certain things like Microsoft Access that only works in the desktop version. So there is unfortunately the need. We have it in our Microsoft licensing that is the Cloud Suite plus the local installs included together.
Who uses Access anymore?
There's actually a few databases, even like the land use department. We have our online permit system, but our historical permits are actually an old access database. Same thing with some of the health inspections. So it's mostly just to have the ability to access that historical data without having to have a dedicated workstation that everybody shares for it.
So like my team, we start at F1 and we go up to, the business, what is it, the up higher license?
Yeah, so the
of-
one we're using, it's
Yeah.
Microsoft, their E3. It's basically their midline one. It gives us a decent
But
sized
does
mailbox for
everybody
the
need an
users.
E3? I'm just saying.
No, actually, we have like say
Is
it's like
there
if the board
something-
members. You guys are using one of our lower tier licenses, so
Okay.
it's only a few dollars a month versus
Okay.
the full subscription.
That's what.
We're only really using the subscription for the people that are in the office using the computers for the full version of Outlook, full version of Office Suite, and everything.
Just one thing to clarify, that on these supplies, you had asked for 10,000 to be in there, and the first selectman cut it to 5,000.
Yeah.
Is this based on the 10,000?
This is based on 5,000.
Okay.
The 10,000 was that perfect rainy day of we replaced every single computer every 5 years. Scaling back that 5,000 was when we said, okay, those public shared kiosks don't really need to be brand new. They can last a few years longer on older equipment.
Wait, it's 28,000 and we cut it down, it's 23 now.
Yep, and yeah, that also includes like our day-to-day supplies, cables, monitors, stuff, not just the
23
computers.
actually is 25 computers, so,
Yep.
at least more than
Yeah,
25.
a good 8,000 of that is set aside, though, like the incidentals, like monitors, cables, accessories, regular supplies around the office as well.
And I believe, if I'm correct in my remembering, that line is about 8,000.
Yep.
So take the 23,000, subtract 8 from it, and
So it's
that's
about
what we're using for
15,000 that we're
computers.
looking at, yeah.
Are the libraries at the computers at the library included in this life cycle?
They actually have their own separate budgeting on it, so unfortunately that's something we were going to work with Jennifer to make sure that we're in line with the same policies across. But they do have their own funding for their supplies, and especially as a library, they do have some educational discounts that we aren't applicable as for the town.
So, but the IT includes the schools and town.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No.
We're siloed off, but we do try to communicate to try to get like,
Oh,
the
but
same
expenses
policies
are-
across.
Their expenses are in their budget,
Yes.
so
Yes,
it's
correct.
only the town right now.
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, so this one, that 120 computers, it's town hall, the public works garage, the parks and rec office, the parks and rec garage, basically our main facilities that are specifically town related. Like Mary asked, the library is separate, the schools have their own
That's their
thing.
own
The police department, especially with some of their security concerns, they are separated from us a bit as well.
And then, so the last budget line is software. Obviously, you see some of the big things. We have our vendor contractual increases and renewal increases that some of which we know about, some of which we're following trend. You'll see the discontinuation of Seamless Docs, which would then move over to the website. We discussed that earlier. There is a small increase in due to additional users in using Kronos and the need for some of the Adobe Acrobat programs. The big hit to Kronos is, for example, we now have all of our poll workers and election workers use the time clocks to punch in and out. When you add them to the system, there's a cost to add them to the system, but it's outweighed in many benefits of having the accurate timekeeping.
Streamlined processes.
Streamlined for them. And then there is a slight reduction. You actually mentioned this earlier about the different tiers of licensing. We did reduce a couple of the licenses of the highest tier and knock them down to the lowest tier based on what they need. So that's why we do have a reduction in the number of licenses we need there. And then you'll see the difference, just a quick difference in the budget there. Seamless Docs was in last year's budget at just under 12,000, but with their trend of the 10% increase, of which we knew about as well, it would have been over $12,000, which is why I mentioned $12,000 earlier. And then you'll see that small decrease in the Microsoft premium, and then the overall vendor costs that go with that.
So basically, the upgrade to the website and the seamless docs wash out each other. kind of.
Yeah, and for the operating costs, we're actually looking at a decrease of around $2,000 by dropping Seamless Docs going into
Going
the
into-
integrated website. The big thing on this year was just that because of the one-time implementation cost, you are seeing the increase on it more than anything else.
Yeah.
And I know Eric had also mentioned like
That's
that the Seamless Docs is doing a 10% increase. I did the quick math. It's basically over the next 5 years, it would have been about $5,000 more, keeping with their increases versus the 5% increase we got through the town website.
Questions, Lee?
Sorry, I haven't.
Oh, I'm glad to have the questions.
Brad? Brianna?
What is GoGov? Is that the same thing as Code Red?
GoGov was one of the alternatives to Code Red. Basically, there's 4 or 5 different companies that are all kind of crowded in the same market. GoGov is a municipal website provider as well that has a community involvement service. It's one of the ones I believe had been like courting the town for saying, hey, we want to use your services. But from the demos that he got, Steve decided Code Red was the one we were familiar with from before and also had the features we were looking for community notifications.
Is there a price difference?
I haven't seen the actual quotes from it. Typically, they're pretty close on it.
Okay.
It's more just the convenience and feature sets of like how easy it is to work with them.
Got it.
Anything else? Elaine, Mary? I have one question.
All right.
The $10,000, you said that's an act now. Is that an act now as in now, or is that an act now as in like next year?
They were
Oh,
hoping
good
to start
question.
it basically as soon as we get the go ahead from the town. So once it's been through referendum, we would be able to go live or start going live and having the transition happen. They were working on us a little bit about the thought of whether we pay it on July 1st and start the project then, or if we have the commitment, we'd be able to start early to get the website up and running as soon as possible.
Do we have $10,000, Mark?
So for that was the thing. Like they were gonna say, it's until it's actually approved. Like so, if it gets approved, the July 1st would be the invoice date on it. So it would be we don't pay it until we actually have the money available. But they did want to start moving ahead of the process. So basically, as soon as we had approval, like May when it goes through the town referendum, as soon as we get that vote from the town, they'd be ready to start on the process of migration.
Do we have it now?
Hey, Glenn, are you worried that the price isn't going to remain if we don't?
Exactly.
Oh no, in our communications with them, I told them our dates.
It's $10,000. If we had $10,000 this year, just lock it in and move on.
Yeah, get it
Yeah.
started now.
No,
I mean-
Yeah,
it
but
would
yeah.
be nice, but it's not a
At
necessary.
the same time, 75% off if you act quickly is the
I
first
know
thing
that.
you learn in software sales.
True. Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about it.
All right.
Yeah,
If
but
you're
no,
not worried
in my
about it.
communications with them, they did understand that we have the approval process. We have to wait till the budget's available. So the price that they gave us, they are willing to wait until July when the actual budget starts to take the money on it.
And it's in their interest to upgrade us too.
Exactly,
So-
like I said, they're
That
trying to
was
sunset
good.
the
Yeah, they want us
platforms.
all.
As long as y'all are good, I'm good.
Yeah, they want us off the
The
old
old system,
platform.
the old
and
platform.
while I think Bride's right. That Act Now thing. They know how. That's their bread and butter is municipal. They know how we work. So if we said to them we can't pay you until July 1st,
Yeah.
clearly it's not going to be.
I
Yeah.
just want to point out
It's a great
that
question though.
the starting before July 1st has got the auditor and me twitching a
I
little
know,
bit.
it's basically they're willing to say like we want to get you off the platform, but they know like we have to have the actual commitment from the town saying yes, this is authorized first. And it's the guy that I've been working with, the sales manager, he's been in municipalities before. He's worked at the actual the town level, so he understands that there is the timeline of the process, and like you can't just say we're guaranteeing it now without having the town approve it.
Perfect. All right.
Sorry, I did have one other question. I
Mhm.
think it might be in insurance, but is cybersecurity insurance part of your budget? or
It's
is
actually
that-
part of the town liability lines. We do the reach out to get the renewals, but it is on the liability lines for the billing.
But the question, if you ask it now, they'd be a big help in answering.
Yeah, I just wanted to, there's so much just going on with cybersecurity, and I know that because I couldn't remember
That's
if
a great
that's
way to put
something we
that.
already
Oh.
implemented or if this was something that we were looking at doing.
Yes, we've had the insurance for I think this is our second year in the
Second year.
town.
Okay.
So so cybersecurity insurance is a moving target. for that exact reason, and this might be more than you need now, but we actually have to reapply for it every year, as in like a full application, as if we've never been
Yes.
a customer of them before. They make you reapply every single year and reevaluate, and there's an ever-changing landscape of requirements. One was you have to have multi-factor authentication. Some coming down the line are, well, we really want you to have this type of antivirus software now. In a couple of years, we're going to require it. And so the rules are changing too. So that's a moving target. We got, I'm very happy this year that the Board of Ed side stayed flat in the renewal, and the town actually went down a little bit. And so I'm really hoping we continue that trend of somewhere around that number.
Thank y'all,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Enjoy your
you.
night.
Thank you.
All right, Marcia, now it's your turn.
All right. Short 3-hour presentation. All right, so this is just an introduction to the budget, kind of go over it at a very high level. Again, that they're pushing for their capital, and that's why this has stopped working.
No money, need money to work.
Last time, when I just moved the cord a little bit, it worked.
It looked like it was right when you would close the presentation. I know some laptops, they'll switch their screens around, so it's just being a little stubborn.
And Marcia, as you're presenting, just do me a favor and yell out the page number when you switch pages so I can make sure I follow along.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is why I ordered the equipment today.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Stay by your phones. So just looking at page 3, an overview of the budget. This is the Board of Selectmen's budget, that it has a 3.91% increase in expenditures. The revenue to support that is 29 mils, and the taxes are 3.94% increase. I believe you've all seen that. Slide 4, that if you read Steve's cover letter, there are some challenges that we're looking at this year, that there's a new way to value motor vehicles, saying that you're going to start with an 85% of manufacturer suggested retail price. What that did was it reduced our assessment for motor vehicles by 11%. And that's 682,000 at 29 mils. There's a planned reduction in one-time revenues. Last year we used approximately 2 million in one-time revenues. We knew we would start weaning off, so this one uses 1.2 million, and then and moves that to the tax rolls. And then next year we're looking to bring that down to 400,000 and then done. The health insurance, we talked about last night with the Board of Ed, that this is just the excess over the average health insurance from 4.7 to 11%. But there was some good news too. That education cost sharing, it's based on the governor's budget, and it still may change, that we would get 241,000 more in education cost sharing than we had last year. Interest income, we'll see the graphs later, that we're budgeting for more interest income. We keep thinking the interest rates will go down. The latest thoughts are they're not going down from here till June 30th. So the budget, right now, we're getting 4.5% fully insured. That and it'll drop to 4.25% in the budget. It drops to 4.25% at the beginning of the year, and then it'll drop to 3%. That so we're budgeting for more than we budgeted for last year, because last year we also said, oh, the interest rates are going down. That but you'll see it's much less than the actual when we look at the graph. That And then the pension costs we talked about last night, that the ADAC went down, and so that, if we use that, is a benefit. So all in all, it's 933,000 of a net challenge.
Just before you go off that slide, I went back to an old friend of mine, Mr. Dan Dvorsitz, and he said for the current budget, I'd be recommending assumptions slightly less than the past year. Just as a note of,
For interest income.
yes.
So this year, we're projecting to get 2 million of interest income. Last year, we got 2.4 million. This year, this budget calls for 1.6 million.
Okay,
So it's down 400, it's down 20%.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
20%.
perfect.
It's scary
you,
that the
Dan.
budget went up, but it's down from actual.
I
Thank
do
you, Dan.
hear his voice in the back of my
I
head
know,
when we're having
yeah.
these
I
discussions.
I was just thinking about it.
I've
today.
reached out to him, I use resources where resources are there.
On slide 5, and I'm.
Hey, Mark, real quick.
Yes.
The health is just the town side, not the school side, right?
Just the town side, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the total. Let me see if that was the total health insurance. I think that might be the total health insurance for the town side. I misspoke on the last one.
Yeah, that can't be the delta. I
Yeah,
think it was-
yeah, that's the total. And last year it was March 5th, tomorrow, where we had been told it would be 7% and they came in at 2%. So who knows where we're coming in, and Glenn asked me to email them yesterday, I did. I have not heard back, just to ask, when do you think you're gonna tell us? Sometimes it hasn't been till May, but there's been no response. All right, so this is House Bill 7067. This is, from my reading, that bill was signed by the governor yesterday. It was vetoed, part of it for the special ed, although they seem to have reached another conclusion. But what that bill allows is, instead of assessing the vehicles at 85% in the first year and going down by 5% a year, you could start assessing the vehicles at 90% the first year and going down until you reach 20%. And your minimum assessment is 500,000. I just want someone else, the assessor or somebody else, to confirm these numbers with me, and I don't have that back yet, so these are just mine. But when I do that, and I take a schedule of vehicles by year, I divide it by 85%, multiply it by 90%, or whatever the percent is, going down, that we can add a significant amount to our assessed revenue, and it would be 468,000 of tax dollars
By starting at the 90%.
by starting at the 90%.
And that's part of the new bill.
So it
Yes.
cuts at 933 and a
That's
half.
big.
So we got good news
That would be
twice
good.
today.
There you
Our problems are solved.
go. There would
What's in
be,
that water jug?
I haven't had a sip yet.
there would be some minor additional costs. We would have to repost the rulebook. We would have to do some reprogramming of the software. The Board of Assessment Appeals has a special window for this. They may have to meet more, so a clerk would be involved. But it's never going to come close to 468,000. To enact this, again, my reading of the statute, which was dull, that we would have to have the Board of Selectmen approve that they want to use the modified schedule. After 14 days, within 14 days of that approval, we would have to tell OPM that that's what we're going to use. We would have to republish the grand list by April 15th, and we would have to add additional timing to appeal at the Board of Assessments. But that's the latest information that I have.
Do we anticipate any opposition by Board of Selectmen on this type of move, or, I don't know if this was discussed at their meeting last night.
This hasn't been, I don't believe it was discussed at the
There
meeting
was a lot of
last.
things discussed last night,
Yeah.
but not this.
This meeting was still shorter than ours.
I don't believe it was discussed. I know that Steve knows about it, but I don't know his opinion, and I don't know if he's talked to the others.
Yesterday
This
when
is
I
a
said-
no-brainer.
Yeah,
So
I
I
was
mean,
gonna
like,
say
Why
that
would
to
they say
me.
no? This is more revenue.
Yeah.
if they say no, it'll be painful on the backside, because it's gotta get cut out. I mean, if they can grab 468 by doing a little work, or maybe, I say a little, but work,
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is something we should
but
obtain.
not $468,000 worth of work.
When I said yesterday,
Right.
why can't they phase it in? It's such a big hit to town suddenly,
Right.
and this would help.
Look at you, you should be running for governor.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'll start
Brian, you got
knocking
any
on
thoughts
doors.
on that? I mean, it shouldn't affect us on claiming that revenue.
This still reduces our resident motor vehicle taxes by around $200,000, right? So it's still a
Yes.
small help
Yeah.
to our residents on
Right.
the motor vehicle side. So hopefully the selectmen will agree.
Okay, so that is brand new, so town operations, and we'll go through a little more detail later, but, the status quo budget, is an increase of 1.41%. There's new initiatives, we tried to line it up the same as the way the Board of Ed lines theirs up. Public safety, and you'll see that our big initiatives are public safety, and they've been public safety for quite some time. Police add a new officer. This 80,000 would be an experienced officer starting January 1st, or it would be a brand new hire. They've had a hard time getting experienced officers. They're concerned about a brand new hire getting them into the police academy. This would allow them to start October 1st, and the police academy is in October in Meriden. They looked that up during our meeting. So that should serve the need. They wanted 2 police officers.
They still do need to.
Okay,
That was the conversation I had today with them. So they came to me and asked me to meet with them today. They really see with all these new apartments, and they gave a lot of examples, like Laurel Hill. One of the condos at Laurel Hill is owner owned, and they get 0 calls to there. But the building across the street is renter owned, and they get 3 to 4 calls there a day. So they stress, because it takes a year to get a new person on board if it's a new hire. So the new hires fully loaded, I think, are what, 80,000, Marcia? A new hire fully loaded, 90,000 fully loaded. That's with benefits and everything.
no, it's 100,
99 you had, I think, on that.
is the wages.
Okay.
And for half a year, it's 80, but for the full year, it is, and I have a worksheet that I gave you, because I updated the numbers on your,
Yeah, I thought it was this number. What's this for new hire, full year, 99,256, fully loaded.
Oh,
Full year new
yeah.
hires,
full
99.
year, yes, sorry, you are
It's okay.
correct.
It's all right. I'm
Um,
not correct often, so I'll take that.
What's
Uh,
a lateral hire?
Somebody who's already experienced.
Experience.
Yeah.
So the
It would
thing
be like
is,
taking another cop from another.
in speaking with them, and they really stress the fact that if they don't get it in the works, it really delays, and these things are coming on board. They said if they got $60,000 from us extra this year, they would figure out a way to make a second officer start the process and work. They felt this was really necessary for them to manage our growing town.
What's the delta in population increase? Do we know? Do we have a number?
I don't know the delta in operation, but I looked at it last year, we were about at 1 to 500. We were 1 shy of 1 to 500. So now if it went up 500 people, these 2 officers would fit that 1 to 500 ratio that the state puts out as a guideline. It's not necessarily a rule, but as a guideline. And this is an area that, because it takes so long for them to spin up, this isn't an area where they can have a real need, and then so they also, if they have an officer down, get out for a while, it really puts them behind a bad spot. So they stressed if we could find a way to add 50 or 60,000 to this ask, that would put them in good shape for this year and next year, you know, to tackle their needs.
And there's a potential it might be a new hire and it might not be a lateral.
Well, what they told me was they put out, for any job opening, they put out for an experience and they put out for
Yeah.
a new hire.
So it could be either or. It
It's
could be the
either
92
or.
or the
They
63.
don't get a lot of the experience, and what happens is they get a lot of experience once from New York, and I spent time asking questions. They experience, but for some reason, the New York experienced officers can't pass some of the tests here in Connecticut, and they drop out fast. So they get more new hires, and they're willing to take on the new hires, but the new hire is a 12-month process
Yeah.
by the time of school and training.
And the
So,
time they could be on their own.
I would suggest here that we put in an extra 60,000 here and figure out what can be done, and if it Brian, when we do the final wash, if it has to wash out, we wash it out. But because it's one of those things that takes 12 months, that's the scary part, right? I mean, it's not like we can hire someone in 2 weeks and get them in here.
I feel like if the police are saying they feel they need someone extra. I
They
think
didn't
that's-
demand it. They
No.
didn't bang their fist down. I met with them
No,
today for
I
an
know
hour.
that.
There was
They
no
never do.
demands.
They never do.
So I actually flagged it in my laymanish world where I'm still learning things, because I saw that the numbers were higher, and I think it was because last year too, we funded,
Yes.
so it's not just this year, but last year too there, and I'm not sure if it was officers last year, or it was a,
We funded a new
yeah, we
half-
funded something
halfway
big.
through the year officer, yes.
Yes, so my question was, has the town population gone up?
Yes. And
They also
the,
lost an officer, I mean, they had an officer retirement.
they might have another one retire too down the
Yeah.
road, but they didn't want to bring that up because it might not happen. But what I did listen to them is because of these apartments too, it takes more time for these investigations. If they come to your house, they're spending a half an hour. They're not spending hours and then follow-up investigation. So the number of calls might even go down, but the hours to exercise the calls go up. And it's understandable, the situations. I mean, like I said, they're not coming to any one of our houses, right? They're going to houses that have multiple issues, and it's really time-consuming now for them.
I think
It wasn't a demand, it was a, hey, this would really help us and get us to the next level. And they do help us with their outside police services when we
they
do
they're
ask.
always good. They're always good.
I would like to see us add 60,000 to this as a placeholder. I read in, Marcia's read, and if we have to wash out at the end, we wash out.
Yeah.
I mean, as a group, when we talk about it. And I think they had valid points. Like I said, I spent an hour, and I did push them and ask them, and one of the things we did talk about also, it's on this subject, is the school is paying $5,000 to have a police officer at the meetings. Now, that's needed because John felt he needed it and whatever, but they already had 2 security people in that school at the time. So they have an ASO with a gun and they have another security officer, and it's like, why are we, so we should maybe take that 5,000 or tell the Board of Ed they're gonna lose 5,000. Or if the Board of Ed is that worried about something happening, why not have the meetings here?
Yeah.
Close to the police station. They can have a meeting here and be 5 minutes away from the police station. So,
I think they draw a bigger audience. That's
I know,
probably part of
but
it.
you can go downstairs in
Yeah.
the first selectman room. I'm just saying, it's one of those things I think we should put it in and think about it. All right, move on then, please.
What is this police, there's a police line under health and welfare, police/social services. So now we're talking 3 officers?
No, I'll get to that.
So go ahead, you can continue, sorry.
Well, you're talking about adding officers, so I think this might be related, that's why I'm asking you.
So that one is a social worker that used to be funded under ARPA, and this is and the budget that we're in right now, the 2025 budget, half of it was funded under ARPA. We had to stop at December 31st when ARPA stopped, and half was funded under taxes. And now this is funded under taxes.
Brian, they came in last year, EMS came in last year, as well as, and explained this person saved significant calls.
Yeah.
So they.
Right, I got it, but I don't know why it's called police. Maybe
all right.
maybe
Well,
it's
it's
wrong.
kind of a liaison.
I was just
between
trying to see-
EMS and police.
No, I hear you, it's a nomenclature thing,
Yeah,
I hear you.
that was me, sorry.
Yeah, it sounded like we're asking for another police person. Now that I know what it is, I just think it's labeled.
So in this budget, we have one either a lateral hire January 31st, January 1st, or a new hire October 1st. And it's also important to point out that the police commission approved them asking for 4 new police officers. And he didn't think he could get that, so he only asked for 2. This adds a part-time dispatcher. There's a real need for a dispatcher overnight, and that was in the Manitou report. And just trying to fit it in the budget, a full-timer would have added another 40,000 to that. But this would be a 30-hour-a-week position. Again, there's
But
some.
we have dispatchers now, so this is an additional
Part-time.
But the
part-time.
report said we
Because-
should have 2 people in there at all time now.
Okay,
So this is what the report, I found that out, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but this is information. The
Okay.
report that she's speaking, Marcia spoke about, says they should have 2 people in there at all times.
That is
So it's stretching them, that's what he's trying to maneuver that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
He's getting stretched in a lot of different
I'm
directions.
sure.
That's a
It's-
basic thing.
it's hard.
And it's, if we can help the stretch, I think we can get a lot more back in the long run from them, like it's a partnership. But that was, Marcia brought up, what was it called, what is it called?
Manitou,
Yeah, Manitou.
that was, the people that did the report.
Right. So that was one of the things they stressed today, is that report said they needed 2. So that's why that came up. Okay, I'm sorry. I learned a lot of stuff today, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's because like if they need to get up and leave the dispatch to go to the bathroom, or there's
Yes.
nobody answering the phones.
Yeah, and they did express, yes,
That's it.
they did express concern about, because it's an overnight, it's better than what they have now, where they're trying to piecemeal it together with overtime hours and extra hours. This would be a dedicated person for the overnight hours. It's not a popular shift apparently to hire people. And so the part of the concern, they do have a concern if they could get a part-timer, it would be more desirable if there was a full-timer that
full-time
could
jobs
get
always are.
the benefits. Part-time records clerk, we talked about this back, I think it was in September, that they had asked for this last year. They were a little bit desperate for it, that you approved it in the budget. We did some shuffling around because we had some savings in salaries. And so they have a temporary, but at that time when you approved it, that we also said it had to go back through the budget process so it could be weighed with the other needs. So this adds that part-time records clerk to continue, and that was because of the time it takes for videos and things. There's an increase in training, and this is a little bit odd that the budget was too low for training before. That we've been exceeding the budget every year. They're doing the mandatory training. That it's hard to tell which training, what the budget's going to be, because if they can do it during, this is really, think of it as overtime to do training. And it's hard to calculate the budget, and we're trying to think of a new way to do that, because if they can fit it in during the regular workday, then there's no cost, no personnel cost. If they can't, then there's an overtime cost, and because they've been stretched so thin, a lot of it is going up because they have to do it outside of the normal hours. So part of that increase is due to just trying to make it like it's been in the actuals in the past 2 years. And then the other part of it is that we've got new tasers, and the tasers require 16 hours of training, and I forgot if there were 8 or 2 hours in the old, so he did, that was a total of 34,000. He did say, you know what, he looked it up, they could do half of that, 8 hours of that online. He'll make sure it's done during the day, so he took 17 out of his budget for that. And then there's just a little bump because some of the police officers are EMTs and another initial, and it's their year for renewal. So, that's what's included in the training edition. New
But hey,
ambulance.
Marsh, what's the absolute? I know you said it's hard to kind of calculate, but at least in the budget, I don't know if 57's maybe it's on track. A big increase or not.
57 is a big increase that, and I'm trying to think, I think it was 140 was the actual, in 2023. 2024 was 167, but it included a one-time cost in there. But I can take a look when I'm out of here. At the bottom, it would be at the bottom of their workbook.
And then the 57 takes them to what? What's the total number then? That would be in the budget.
Mary is looking at the police workbook, and in the off the bottom is the subtotals from.
Oh, yeah, I didn't bring my book with me, sorry.
What you didn't bring it?
Not to the, it's like Flat Stanley, it should have went with you.
Well, the BOE stuff did, I'll tell you that much.
64% increase
Yeah,
in training.
It's 189, but then he subtracted 17, so it's 171. But the 2024 actual was 163, so it's a big increase over the budget, but not a big increase over the actual.
Yeah, 'cause the budget was 113.
Correct.
Did he say anything, and I did not learn this today, about is this continuing now, this number? Is this where the status quo number, or is this a year that has more?
You know, if we could get them to, this is just me speaking, he didn't say this, but if we could get them to a position where they're fully staffed, and everyone, and they're hitting on all cylinders because they're all up and trained.
Probably wouldn't notice it.
I would
Because they were doing their
imagine
regular
this would go
hours.
down with overtime going, because it is overtime.
See, that's what I'm saying, I think we gotta stretch it to find that, they asked for 4, if we could at least get them 2.
Yeah.
Because again, it takes 12 months to get someone on board too.
And if there's
so-
not new equipment, they're all getting trained on
Yeah,
in a particular year.
right.
Yeah, and if they overspent in their budget on this line item by this amount, they must have underspent somewhere else, right? Because they didn't blow their total budget.
That's correct.
Yeah, they're good about managing.
So
Brian.
they're not giving up those, they're asking for the overage in this line, but they're not giving up the underages in the other line, so, I think if we dug into that, we might be able to find this money you're looking for, Glenn.
That, but they gave up some already, they did give up some this year already, they gave back, what they told me, and I don't know if I see it here, but they did tell me.
Well, they took some stuff out of their fund, right?
Yeah, they took stuff out of their fund.
Right.
And
Right.
they'll
My point is, this overtime is only going up 11,000 year to year versus the actuals. They're asking for 57, so that means they must have tucked 45,000 in the budget somewhere this year. But they haven't taken the budget down by 45,000 this year. They just asked for the increase, not giving up the decrease. I think there's some money in there.
And to me too, I think from 4.5 million to 5.8 million, we've come a long way in the past 4 or 5 years. And I completely get the nature of this, we really have to focus on public safety and all. But maybe there's, I don't know, what is, if we're looking at budget overall, is this?
So on them also, Brian, we take 100,000 out of their budget as a reverse contingency on salaries. So we already grab 100K of their fat money,
Right.
out of it
But
already.
again, every year they survive that and,
They survive that,
Covered
they
this.
do survive that, yes.
right. Again, so it's just, I
So-
think if we sharpen the pencil, maybe there's a little more money here.
Yep.
I agree.
And they will be in Wednesday or Thursday. I forgot which
Wednesday.
day.
Yeah.
All right.
So Marcia, I think you got my point. Maybe you can look at numbers and help.
Yep, I'm gonna
Explain
look at the
that
budget
when they
versus
come in.
actual for last year.
Where is
Um,
this number?
That, supplies, I have to borrow my cheat sheet here, is based on training equipment, and training equipment is mostly ammunition. That, and there's 2 new types of ammunition that they will have this year. ultimate training munitions called UTM. And those are simulated rounds that have been added, and that's used in training instead of real bullets. And then kinetic energy weapons, KEW, that ammunition has been added. That's a less lethal version of ammunition. Between the two of them, that is about $10,000. And then duty ammunition is also going up by 20%.
There's a 32% increase from last year. In
That
just
is
the,
correct.
in just the, yeah.
That is
Well,
correct.
I don't understand, what are they shooting this stuff at? I mean, does it take a different, it must not be shot out of the same gun, I would think.
These are things that they couldn't do with their old guns. They can do with their new guns. They did have some equipment, some additional kits to add to their guns, and we asked them to take that. It's about $13,000 worth, and we asked them, and they agreed to take that out of their budget. Last time it was paid with the outside services. Could they buy these additional kits with the outside services? And so they were going to do that.
We could probably ask them these questions tomorrow.
Yep, and the 32%, you have this schedule of all the changes.
Is that what you had tonight?
Yes, it's the second page in, I think. Training equipment is 11,000. Ultimate training munitions is 8,000. Kinetic energy weapons is 2,000. Duty ammunition is 1,600. And miscellaneous other costs went up by about 20% on this inflation type thing. It's
Oh, it's this one right here, this little one that goes
Yeah.
back. Got it.
Follow along.
That's the difference with the new initiative. It doesn't include cost of living increases and stuff, it's just new things.
Got it, new things.
And then EMS is in here, that if you remember last year, we were trying to figure out I was trying to figure out their wages, and I thought that some were double accounted for. That, and we took 119,000 out and we put it in contingency. And they are spending, that money. And for this year, for the 2026 budget, they calculated their budget. I independently went through and calculated all the hours from last year, 2024, this is our first full year, multiplied it by the 2026 rates, and we're within $5,000 of each other.
Oh,
And,
that's good.
but this big increase of 119 is a move that we made last year, and my understanding that I thought it was too high, and I was wrong about that. Health and welfare, this is the police social services liaison, that's the second half. It puts it in the expenses, but you will see that there's revenue, opioid grant, that offsets some of this. That much of what they're doing is working with people with drug issues. And so that's why we're using the opioid grant, and that'll be in the revenue.
Yeah, but that opioid grant isn't growing year to year.
We've got about 262,000 that we'll get, and that's before the big two that are just settling now, as far as I understand. The big two that are just settling now, but we'll be getting something, and it is shrinking, you're right. But I don't know, just reading the news, they're talking about a settlement, and it's that family, I don't remember their name. It sounds like they were settling, and so I'm hoping that we'll get some notification of how much we would get from that settlement.
Okay, my point is, we can't necessarily count on opioid grant covering this because we've been getting that opioid grant for years.
This is the second year that we're using it, correct? We saved it up.
Well, from a year-to-year perspective, it doesn't cover this 40,000.
No, it doesn't, it doesn't. Culture and recreation, the new elementary school, the outside maintenance, This was the quote from the current contractor, will probably go out to bid. This will be the first year that Parks and Rec, they handle the outside of the building, will be doing the building. And again, they'll be coming in to talk to you tomorrow, I think, or Thursday. And this covers mowing. It's a pretty big place to mow. It covers maintaining the little river that's there. It covers mulching, and the other items for CLES. So that's the biggest increase there. And then we've paid every few years for turf field cleaning and the analysis, and we've paid for it out of capital. And we talked in the capital committee, I think it was last year, that really should be something that's paid out of operating. And she was trying to annualize it, so if she did this field this year and this field next year, to kind of keep it even. So that's added to operating for the first time. General government, we've got a tax suit for and union negotiations. We checked with the attorney, how much do you think that we should put in the budget for the tax suit? It's one of our biggest taxpayers, it's not worth letting go. And how much should be in there for union negotiations. We use the midpoint, we've got the 2 contracts. We use the midpoint that he gave us, because if everything goes bad and both go to arbitration, it's going to be more than this. And registrars, early voting, we'll talk about that. They'll be here in 25 minutes. So that's all the new things that are added.
So on the training line, what counts did you merge to make a 51,900 line? Because it's not in 2023, 24.
It is 4 lines, because we were trying, as you were nicely saying, how the chart of accounts works so nice. The police, we merged some lines to put them into
51,900. You must have merged 51,625, I would assume.
51,625,
623.
51,623, 55,810, and 53,916.
The only thing I have actually picked up from tonight.
It's
Okay.
it's on
I'm
the
gonna-
second,
I'm gonna
it's on
hold
the
on
back
to
page of the first.
It's right here.
Perfect.
Have it in my
Alright.
hand.
So that is a meld now of 4 lines.
Yes. Yes, and we
So
can-
whereas the increase is only to the training line, or is it
Yeah.
an increase
It's
of?
really just the training line. The holiday pay is increased by the contracts,
It's like by $7,000.
yeah,
And the
but,
specialty was only 2. The main is training right here, where it went from 115 to 189.
so there's a $74,000 increase there before they took the 17,000 out.
Right. The other 2 didn't really increase. It's just this training.
Yeah.
And there's also the technology-related hardware that went up by 7,000. Which is,
But you have to take 17 off of the 189 because they came down for the training by 17.
Yep.
What was the technology you said?
57340.
Oh, a technology-related hardware.
Yeah, and that's another 7,000, so.
I think that came down in the Board of Selectmen, or one of the 2 cuts, either the first selectman, did it come down by
So
7,000?
for selectmen cut 7,000, but there's still 7,000 there. So I think they asked for 14, and they now have 7,000 in the selectmen budget. So I'm looking at a 27% increase in that, a 32% increase in the training one, and then a 22% increase in the specialty pay, which, those are numbers that stood out. And a 13% increase, $9,000, which is communications. Communications went down last year to 71,000. It's back up to 88,000. I think Steve took off 8,000 from there, but there's still a $9,000 increase there. So 9,000, 7,000, 12,000, 31,000. Yeah, everything together it adds up to. 333,000.
When I am out of my PowerPoint, I can pull that up and
Yeah.
remember what that was.
Yeah. I'm just looking at Steve's.
Okay.
The Board of Ed, they talked about last night that capital that purchases the 10-year plan, and we'll talk about this on Monday night, I think, with Brian. The 10-year plan for the high school and the middle school, 2.2 million. Paving, 1.5 million, noting that that hasn't gone up in years.
Right.
Funding reserves, 879,000. EMS, the third ambulance, 520,000. Two public works trucks, 430. Police, computer aided dispatch records management system, 332,000. 2 trucks for the Parks Department for 242, 3 vehicles for the Police Department for 204, revaluation for 200, and a number of small things for 390 in total.
The ambulance, are they getting rid of 18-1?
They
Are
are
they getting rid of 1, so they're still staying at 3, or are they keeping the 1 for backup and now they're at 4?
they're keeping the 1 for backup, and
So
they'll
it's
have 3 active is what they.
They're gonna rotate them, is what I got told. So they're gonna run the new vehicle,
Still
and
four.
every once in a while, they'll shut down a new vehicle, move the old one in, and move it around. So they're figuring on the life extension is not 10 years, they're gonna push it to 12 years, which would actually pay for the
Right.
ambulance in the 12 years.
It gives them 3 active at any given time.
It gives them
Yeah.
3 active.
But,
at
and I
any
gotta
time.
drop,
Go ahead. Yeah, thanks,
Yeah,
Brian.
see you later.
Appreciate
I
it.
just
Goodbye.
want to make one point on here on this,
Yep.
is that a lot of the stuff in here, such as that ambulance, is coming out of previously reserved money, right? So that 540, 520, only 130-ish of that is this year funding, right? We've been tucking that stuff away. So there is, what, I don't know if you're going to lay that out, or I'm doing that on Monday, Marcia, but
Slide 9.
we're starting to see the benefit of doing the reserves we've taken in the past now.
Good.
We
That
have a lot
sounds
of vehicles.
good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, see you all tomorrow. Thanks.
Yep.
All right.
Bye.
We do have a lot of
How
vehicles.
do we pair with other town, I mean, I know that we've done audits on how many vehicles we have, but it just seems that, I mean, so much of our capital year after year after year is vehicles.
Yes.
And are we still just catching up from not maintaining stuff, or are we like exceeding and going beyond?
I think we did
Depends
talk
on the
about a
department.
plan for,
I don't know, when I was at Capitol and they did the whole audit.
here, this is the list, right?
Yeah,
Vehicles.
I was looking at that.
Yeah.
I was like, hey,
So that's the capital, what we're buying with capital in the proposed budget, and this is how it's being funded. Bonds, and we're thinking of the bonding that we would do the same as last year, that we wouldn't do the bonding, we would front the money through fund balance. It costs almost $100,000 to do bonding, and so if we could front this money, a lot of this is the school stuff, and they are a little slow to start sometimes on their projects, and so I don't know that we would have that much cash flow that we would be putting out. We've also talked with the school about, it's not on here because it's not definite, that getting school construction loans for these projects, and so they're looking into it, and it seems that it's very possible that we could get school construction loans, and just layperson looking at the list of what they would pay for and what we have on the list, if we could get 20%, it might add up to $350,000. Plus potentially a loan that we're working on now for the water line that's in here. So in total, between those 2 types, it might be $500,000. But right now, that would be a decision when we go to bond to say, oh, we approved 2 million, but we got loans for 200,000, so we're only gonna bond for 1.8. Excess revenues that we've used those in the years, there's less excess revenues. You've got the revenue report, I had a little problem balancing one of the numbers for the selectmen's meeting, but now it's balanced and it's in there. We have about 650,000 of excess revenues, and this would use about 456 of it. Reserves that were funded in previous years, this is the ambulance and the revaluation that we had reserves for, so we wouldn't have to pay for that. EMS, last year, we were giving them the cash and they were paying all the bills. For EMS, we gave them $880,000 and they paid $775,000 of expenses, so that they have an extra 105 of our money from last year. That and we're asking them to use 50,000 of it to fund part of that ambulance. And then tax cash capital, as we like to call it, that is
So let's go, wait,
3 million.
then, what's happening with the other 55,000?
I was just about to ask that, and maybe I'm just a little.
So there's 105 they have extra. You've asked for 50,000 for the ambulance. Where's the other 55?
The rest of the year.
We have, the selectmen did not ask for that, I would imagine that if we wanted to get that refined, this is just me talking, that we would look at what did they pay extra, what did we pay extra, but right now there is no discussion of that.
And this is, we just asked them to take the 50 to put to the ambulance, but the ambulance hasn't been approved yet.
This is prior year 105.
2024.
This is not current year. This is not
Correct.
running in their current year budget. This is prior year savings of 105.
Yes,
So that 105 is sitting there that they had expenses of 760. We gave them 8 whatever and change. We said, hey, give us back 50,000 for the ambulance, so we should know where the 55 is.
it's with them.
Yeah,
I mean,
Right,
but I
but we
mean-
should know what they're.
What's the earmark for that 55? Is it incorporated in this year's spend and we get money back at the end of this year?
That is a deeper conversation than mine,
I
that,
mean, it's
because
not a bad conversation.
No.
It's just a conversation.
it's a conversation that, we do know that they overspend their budget some years
Okay.
on other things that, so that, I guess that's more of a philosophical conversation of, do we wanna go and reconcile all this?
It's a matter of getting all on the same page, right? We've talked about this.
Correct. And going forward, we shouldn't have this issue, that because we're trying to take their bills in here, and if we give them an advance for cash flow for their payroll, that we post it as a prepaid expense, and we'll have a number at the end of the year as an asset there of, or zero, hopefully.
Since you broached it, we haven't discussed it, but Marcia's department, when she gets to it, has asked for an extra half, I believe, right? A
2
half,
days.
2 days. And we're bringing in the fire department's financials and we're bringing in the EMS. They don't do they do a good job, but they don't do financials to our standards. So part of this whole process is we're gonna put a little bit of extra work on Marcia's team. We've given her a little bit more hours, but they're gonna do it. What they even, like working through Munis, the inputs will all be in there. We'll be able to track it better. We'll have better access, and it'll tie us together. So that's one of the increases that we have on our side. And Marcia and I have been talking about this a while. They are not accountants, the fire department. They do a great job, don't get me wrong, but they're not accountants.
And don't ask us to fight a fire.
Yes,
Right.
they-
Right.
So-
yes.
You guys aren't fighting a fire.
So that was one of
We're all
the
doing
discussions
our
that I've had with
Right.
the EMS and with the fire, and Marcia had a very nice meeting with the EMS as well.
EMS, yes.
The EMS, the fire is a little different, they're new and old, and we gotta work through that together. But I think they're ready to turn over and let us get closer with, so that it all works.
And the big benefit is that they're using QuickBooks, and you know, if they were the best QuickBooks user ever, QuickBooks does not handle, the budgetary controls.
No, it doesn't.
And
That's just state.
Munis does, and so that's what we're working towards.
Got
that it
So
will-
that's gonna be that's one of the increases
Well,
that we'll see,
That makes a
but
ton of sense
it-
to me.
that's what Marcia and I talked about, and I think everybody was on board with it, so.
Because I think it's gonna be a lot of.
I didn't think it was a
to get
stretch, so I
that.
figured you
No
guys would be
questions, no
going with
questions,
this,
yeah.
and
Makes sense.
so I sort of worked with her on this a little
Yes.
bit, but I thought, I saw much value in
Yes,
that.
I agree.
Managing the money is more, you know, every.
So,
And it would be taking the time from a different line in the budget, a different position, so that it would be budget neutral, that as far as the payroll.
yeah, so we're really trying to, so that's why we gotta be with them this year on their budgets. We gotta figure out a way forward and get through it, but we can get more partnership in the long run, that's all.
Do you want me to stop here and we'll move to the registrars?
Sure.
That,
For sure.
Sure, it's your meeting now, anyway, you can do whatever you
Right.
want, you're in charge today.
I love that.
You wanna sit in the chair at the other end, go right ahead.
I was thinking of that.
Am I allowed to sit at the table, or
would
do I have
love
to stay here?
all-
No,
Okay.
everybody,
Yeah.
if you're all together, come to the
We're
table.
all together.
Well, then come on in.
This is 3/4 of us.
Come
guys
on,
wanna
you
stay
can
there?
sit here.
Okay,
You sure?
I'll
She's
handle
like,
it.
I'm gonna stay.
To
Safe zone.
So I wanted to, if it's all right with you,
Go
could I
ahead,
just
Marcia.
give a little overview of the, I guess I could pull it up here, it might be easiest. We've asked the registrars to come in because there's a lot of changes to their whole organization. There's a lot of, and I've lost that screen again.
Yep.
There's a lot of changes to what they do. There's a lot of changes for how they do it, and there's a lot of changes to the finances. And I'm trying to get the screen back.
There it is.
Okay. And so let me try to make this a little bigger. Oh,
They're really pinging us now.
I know. And the leading cause of all of these changes, and from my perspective, is early voting. Early voting is, and I know more about this than I want, is 14 days for an election. I think it's 7 days for a primary, 4 days for something else. That, and it was very, very popular during the presidential election. And the other part of it that came in after last year's budget, because early voting hadn't been refined at the time we did last year's budget, was that same-day registration. It used to be called EDR, Election Day Registration. Now it's SDR, Same-Day Registration, which is corresponds with Election Day and early voting days. And you have to have people staff that, and they have to be in a separate room, so you can't get economies of scale by saying, oh, I'll do that over on this side and help you out over here. So there's a lot of new things. And the way we used to do, so let's talk about the poll workers on these election days and early voting days. The way we used to handle poll workers was that we would pay them a stipend, and that stipend would be for the full day. You're gonna work the full day, and this is what you're gonna get. We hadn't changed it for years. And then it was hard to get people for the full day, and so then we started doing half day. You correct me anytime I'm wrong.
Sometimes.
Nope.
That, and sometimes we would say, okay, they're gonna do the morning, and this one's gonna do the afternoon. And now to try to take 1 day of election day and extend it to 14 days before that, including weekends, it's hard to get that same commitment that you're gonna be there, you're gonna be consistent all day. From the finance point of view, these poll workers, we hadn't increased their wages. Sometimes they think they're gonna work 6 a.m., 5 a.m.,
5 a.m.
5 a.m. to 8 p.m., and they're here till midnight, And now we've got a problem with minimum wage, because they've got to be covered for minimum wage. So trying to address all this, we changed the poll workers in the November election to hourly. The 3 different levels, you know, the moderator would get the most per hour, and they're all based off of minimum wage. No one's getting rich. The moderator would get the highest. The deputies and assistants, separate from the 2 different titles called assistant registrars, would get, or deputy registrars would get a second amount, and then everyone else would get a third amount. And actually worked pretty well. It didn't add a lot of money to the budget. I calculated at one point, but now we've got so many calculations here that it was adding a few $1,000s, but we were covering minimum wage. So that is part of the change for poll workers, and it had in the budget, the original budget in your budget books, it's got primaries in there. And we've only had 3 primaries in the last 20 years, I think Bob Belden was talking about. And so it seems like that's more of a contingency thing than an actual budget for it thing. So the poll workers, it'll vary year after year depending on if we have a presidential election, if we have no election or local election. Deputies and assistants, that they have changed the structure, and they're not using the assistants as much. The assistants were used for filing, and the deputies are now filing their own stuff, and more involved. And then in this budget, so those things had changed during this year to try and get this whole thing to work. And then for 2026, we looked a lot at the registrars. The registrars used to be paid a stipend. Again, we have to worry about minimum wage. Nobody ever kept track of the hours. And so this proposes that the registrars also move to hourly, and that seems to be most fair to them, and it seems to be most fair to the town, and it seems to be most in compliance with making sure that we're legal for things. Do you want to talk a little bit about about your office,
I
how
would love
things
to.
have changed?
I'd love to. Sorry, I prepared things because I didn't want to miss anything, so it's 3 minutes. I'll keep it short. I know you guys have a lot of meetings.
Please take your time.
All right.
Please take your time.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. It's really a privilege to serve in this role, and we take our responsibilities seriously. As you know, we are in an independent office, and we are funded by the municipality, but governed by state mandates, which guide our work and present unique challenges. Tonight, I'd like to share the goals we've set for our office, which also inform our budget request. Our first goal is to build a strong bench and ensure we have a solid succession plan for our deputies. According to state statute, upon election, each registrar must immediately appoint a deputy to assist the principal and take over in their absence. With the continuous turnover in our office over the past decade, it has been challenging to ensure our deputies are fully trained and ready to step into leadership roles. Kathy and I are working to ensure both deputies are fully trained and also certified to maintain continuity and deliver high-quality service to our community. Our second goal is to streamline processes and identify efficiencies. For example, we previously had 2 assistant registrars, as Marcia mentioned, who came in twice a week to do filing. We've now absorbed those hours into the schedule for the 4 of us, and we will handle the filing ourselves as part of our daily work. Another example is the annual canvass of voters, which take place from January through April. In previous years, the registrars budgeted for assistance with the mailings, but this year the 4 of us are managing the task ourselves. We borrowed the letter folder from the assessor's office to speed up the process. I'm not sure if anyone knew there was a letter folder. and actually the assessors thought it was broken. We don't want to give it back to them, so it's not broken. As of February 24th, we sent out nearly 2,000 letters. Additionally, we overhauled our website, adding an FAQ section and implemented social media. These updates streamline communication with voters and allow us to address common questions more efficiently, reducing the need for individual inquiries. Our third goal is to track data and refine operations. Before early voting was introduced, it was widely regarded in our association of registrars that each part-time registrar generally worked around 900 hours per year. With the introduction of early voting, that number has increased to about 1,550 hours per registrar. We've been tracking our hours and gathering data to ensure we can continue refining our operations and accurately reflect the workload in our budget. And I'll just share with you, I've been tracking my hours since January, and I'm working about 27 hours a week. It's not election season. On election day, we work 18-hour days. There's a lot of prep work involved. So there is a lot of work to do. We're really not even touching it, to be honest. There's a lot of work to be done.
But it's the 27, the catching everything up and improving things, that's not the stabilized amount.
I'll get into
Okay.
it. Our fourth goal is to prepare for the future. We are anticipating the implementation of a new state-mandated voter registration system this year, which will require comprehensive training for all of us. We are also expecting to receive new tabulators this month, which will require extensive training for us and our poll workers. We are also in the process of sorting through our voter registration cards, which are currently filed across 4 different cabinets. Some cards may be in the wrong cabinets, and some may need to be purged. This task is being done in conjunction with the annual canvass of voters. Filing and organizing the cards appropriately will eliminate the need for 2 of these fireproof cabinets, which were purchased, we believe, I'm not sure, I checked, I didn't check town records, but I checked, Google. They're around $5,000 each, these cabinets. We believe the town can sell these cabinets and recoup some of that money. This undertaking will help free up space for 2 additional desks in our office. Currently, we are desk sharing. So I have a desk and Kathy has a desk. Kathy and I work different hours. When Christine comes in, she uses Kathy's desk. Vice versa. It's not great. I gave Christine half my desk so she can store her belongings in drawers somewhere. It's just not a good system. We really need to be fully operational. So in light of these improvements, we also recognize the increase in our budget from last year. We believe that past budgets have not fully reflected the scope of our work. This year's budget is a more accurate representation of the actual work we do, and we anticipate that next year's budget will be even more precise. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, and we look forward to answering your questions.
All right, so my first question is, this is not an election year.
No, it is. It's a municipal election year. Every year is an election year.
Yeah.
So,
It's not
do we,
presidential.
but do we need the same support as we need for the presidential election?
Always. It's
Always.
always the same. Yep.
So if you look,
We do calibrate, and obviously one of the things that I'm not sure people know, and Marcia alluded to, the early voting was really popular. And so we do calibrate now because that takes a lot of load off the polls. We're not sure if it's going to be the same for a municipal as it was a presidential. Obviously, a presidential is the highest turnout that we receive every 4 years. So we just don't know. But we do calibrate on expectations of what we think, just as we order ballots based on what we think turnout will be, it's the same for the polls.
So you can do the early voting for municipal elections as well as
Yeah, it's
presidential
14
elections?
days.
Yeah, we
Have
have
to.
to.
You have
We
to.
don't have a choice, yes.
if you look in your budget workbooks, there's a new page that's added, which is schedule of hours. And that's just, it's
So
on the
while we're
screen.
going to that, you said the old registrars worked 900 hours, and you worked 1050, is what you
No,
thought.
1550.
1550.
Yep. That's what they believe, in our association of registrars, that's what they believe part-time registrars register. Most towns are, there's 169 towns. I'm not sure how many of them, but unless you're in Hartford or Waterbury, Danbury is full-time, but generally speaking, most towns are part-time. But I will tell you, even though we are a part-time office, the 4 of us are working more than 40 hours a week. So it's really just kind of 40 hours divided by 4 people. It varies between person to person.
So, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of catch-up work to do to kind of get everything organized and set and kind of at a good baseline. I don't know if you have any way of anticipating how long it's going to take to get to where you want. I mean, it seems like you talked about the new machines and you're getting training and that kind of things. There are always going to be moving parts.
Yeah.
But there is. So I need to be very careful on how I say this. When we asked for the town for more money in January, December, we asked for money to organize and clean the office. We asked for 12 hours, or 24 hours, 12 hours per deputy. And obviously, the registrars just worked. So we have used about 11 hours. When we did that, we organized years worth of paperwork. I have 12-gallon totes in our closet that I can barely lift, full of paperwork. We need to coordinate with the town clerk and the state library to put it all in records retention. We can't just dispose of it, we have to ask for permission. I anticipate this will take years.
Wow.
That's not even, that's mandated,
Yeah.
but that's not part of our daily work of registering voters, communicating with voters, preparing for elections, the canvas, as I spoke about, that we do from January, from April. That's extra work that I didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if Kathy knew about it. We didn't anticipate.
So in your budget workbooks, you can see the hours, and it's kind of laid out by what elections there's going to be during the year and what positions they traditionally have for each of the elections. And then in the next priority form, which I also printed, it might be the 3rd thing in your package, that tonight I reprinted it. It's before the police next priority form. That yes, and that shows how the hours were calculated for the registrars. That this is 12 hours a week times 50 weeks, plus election prep, election early voting hours down the line. That and so this adds up to 930 hours per registrar for the year. And we don't have any idea of what the real hours are going to be or what the stabilized hours are going to be as far as.
So what makes us different from Newtown?
So I'm
You
so
said
glad.
you did some states, because Newtown
I'm
does
so
this whole
glad-
thing for $90,000 in labor, and it does the same polling cost, 51,000 compared to your 51,000. So your labor costs to handle 11,000 voters is the same labor cost to handle 20,000 voters. Double the amount of voters in Newtown, your labor costs are the exact same to handle 11 or 14,000, whatever we have. I think Newtown's more than 20, by the way. I'm just wondering, because when I pull up Newtown, as you said, you looked at other towns, you brought up the other
No,
towns.
I'm not talking about the poll workers. I'm talking about the work we
No,
do
I'm
in
talking
the
about the workers.
office.
So the elected officials total between the elected officials and the deputies and the assistants in Newtown is 98,000. No, 89,000, I apologize. That's us, 89, Newtown is 98. So $9,000 difference to handle twice the workload almost.
I don't think you can say it's twice the workload. Our work
No, I'm
is not.
asking voters. I
Yeah,
mean,
our
that's-
work is not per voter. That's not how things operate. And
So how bad, what did it get? I mean, did we have nothing going on for the past 10 years down there? Because, tread lightly. That's all I'm gonna say, because my cousin actually was the registrar prior to this, so.
I
just-
can't answer your question.
No, you can.
I can't.
And freely.
I'm brand new as of January.
Right.
I worked in the office starting in the summer as an assistant,
Mhm.
and then Dottie's deputy left.
Right.
I'm gonna say it this way.
Say it or you gotta say it, I'm good.
No.
I was teasing with you.
No, because I do want to be respectful. I'm gonna say it this way. It is an advantage for me to come in with fresh eyes. I think
Yes.
there are different ways that we can be doing things,
Yes, always.
and I think that we can move our office into the 21st century.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask another question.
Okay.
I think we had issues in the registrar's office for a few years, maybe. What is your background to carry us to this next level, that you can dive into this, analyze it? Well, I guess if we went down a wrong road prior years, your road is over here. I do like your words, I'm not gonna lie, I'm listening and paying attention. But why would I drive on your road and give you double the hours of a road that could lead me in a direction that's not the road I wanna be on?
Okay, so first of all, our work is state mandated.
Yeah?
It takes how long over it takes is how long it
But
takes.
that was the prior people as well. They had the same guidelines as you had.
I'm really not gonna get into what happened before. I'm just not
No,
going to.
I'm not asking you to, I'm saying scenario A, they had the
It's
same
diff-
guidelines and they drove Route 7 to go to Norwalk.
They were underpaid. They were underpaid. That's what I want to say to you. They were underpaid. As I explained to you, I'm working about 27 hours a week right now. If you do the math, if you look at our stipends, I'm making about $11 an hour. Our deputies get paid $23.50 an hour. I didn't bring it with me, but I have another document where I looked at Christine's hours and my hours.
Mhm.
I worked more hours than her for 2 weeks. She got paid more than I do.
I can
They were
understand.
underpaid. I don't know how to explain it to you any other way. I was here during early voting. Dottie was here every day, all day, for 2 weeks straight.
But you bring up underpaid, and I'm listening to you actually, but Newtown's paid the same. Newtown is paid the exact
We
same.
were getting paid
It's just-
$15,000 a year? I don't think that's the same. I think they make like $30,000 a year.
Your numbers right now are for the things.
Oh, are you talking about the
For
new
next-
budget?
next
For
year's
next
budget.
year?
Oh, I'm wrong. You're right. I'm wrong.
You're really confusing me, Glenn. I don't think 15,000
I
is the same as
10,000
30.
humble apologies.
Thank you. Because I'm starting to get a little.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna bring it down.
I'm gonna give you 10,000 humble apologies.
Thank you.
So, on your analysis, one time I had a client that took how much I charged for the audit for the town, divided it by the number of checks, and then took how many checks they have and multiplied it out to say this is how much their audit should cost. And there are some fixed costs that everybody has, and then there's some things that vary based on the number of voters. What types of, can you just go through what types of things are the fixed cost things that you would have to spend the same amount of time as Newtown would have to spend, or
Okay,
Uncle
so
Union or
since there's not been any record keeping, I went to New Fairfield and met with the registrar there. She's
I know, I give you a lot of credit.
She's-
You get a lot of credit.
listen.
But that
She's a great registrar. She took over during COVID.
right.
Similar situation where both registrars left, and
Mhm.
so she gave me some examples of the work that they provide to their Board of Finance, different things that we do. So, for example, the canvas that we're working on, she estimates 60 hours each per registrar. And the one thing that I will say that's unique is, so yes, we are required to have deputies, but again, 169 towns, 169 ways to do things.
Mhm.
We, as I said, are trying to build a bench and make sure that they're
I
trained.
agree with you a lot. Before
Yeah.
you go any further,
No, that's
I
okay.
agree with you a lot.
Some towns don't do that. Some deputies are just in name only, and then someone dies, guess what, you're up. We're not doing that. And I think our office runs better with 4 people. There's other work we have to do. We have to go to the high school twice a year to register voters. We have town meetings, we have voter outreach, we have certifications and training. Everything we do is state mandated. I was trying to think of something that we do that's not. They all, but I don't know how long it takes, because I haven't been doing the job. And so that's why I met with this registrar to give me some idea of what we're working with.
And I feel like after you, I mean, like you said, you have catching up to do, whether it's record filing and things that need to get brought up to current. And I mean, that's always going to be a learning curve that, especially this first year.
Yeah. And it
So-
has been shared with me that the first year is the hardest year.
Right.
It takes 4 years to go through the whole job because it's 4
The
different
elections.
kinds of elections, obviously, but the first year is the worst.
It was the first year that kind of was incorporating all the huge changes. in our
Yeah,
voting.
it's
Right.
great.
Yeah,
We're
and
getting
then
new
it gets- yeah.
tabulators, a
statewide
new
changes.
voter system, figuring out what we did wrong or right with early voting. It's the best year for me to start in this role, but also unique. So let me answer your question, Glenn, because even though my party picked me, I would love to tell you why. I'm a problem solver. Everyone I know, you can talk to anybody, you can ask Mary, you can ask Eileen. They know me very well. I solve problems. That's what I do.
I still will, even though I made a mistake and you got all my apologies, and I meant them sincerely,
Thank
actually. I still struggle with the same dollars as Newtown because of the touches. And I understand inheriting a mess, but they still have to go through the same sort of things on a turnover basis in different roads.
So is
and
your argument is that we're going to be paid the same as them, and you don't think that we should be?
I'm saying on a touch basis, like per voter, and I get what I heard you, I listened to you, I did listen to you.
I do need to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
Per state law, you cannot pay us per voter.
No, I didn't say pay per voter.
I'm just saying,
when
you
I look
can't-
at when I look at things, I look at tasks and volume.
I understand.
It's like, so if you are dealing with X amount of voters, that means you're gonna have X amount come in new turnover in town, so you're gonna have the time to take to bring on how many voters per year. And
Well-
you're asking for double what we're going. So what we basically we went up how much this year? 115% on that line, 110% on that line.
Yep.
That's a big jump.
I understand.
That's like a huge
I understand.
jump that's difficult. Now, we could also get an argument if we give this 110%, right, and hear me out, if you're elected officials, so you knew the salary, you ran for the job, you got elected, although you didn't know the full scope of the job.
No.
But now, what if the town clerk says you gave them 110% pay increase on the town clerk side, and I think I should get 20%?
I think
And I'm
the
an
town-
elected official.
It's okay. I think the town clerk would tell you that we're underpaid. I would argue we're treated as department heads, but we're not paid as such. We're
Right.
given a stipend like the Board of Selectmen
Correct.
and the town treasurer.
Yeah.
I don't know how many hours they work, but I'm pretty sure that we work more hours than they do. We have daily tasks that we need to do.
Yes.
And registering voters is a large part. We did, I think, it's not only registering voters, it's making changes and that sort of thing. I think we did like 4,500 transactions last year alone. But again, there's other things that we need to do. The bulk of our hours, quite honestly, are not on a weekly basis. It's during election time. Like I said, just on election day alone, we work 18 hours.
Yep.
We have to do tabulator testing. I was a deputy at the time. I came here for a Saturday. I spent 8 hours sitting in a room testing the tabulators to make sure that they work properly. Those are things I can tell you were not in our budget before because I said, hey, I did this, why isn't this in the budget? And we added it. I'm sure we're going to keep finding things that are not in the budget that should be. I guarantee that that's going to happen. I have no doubt. So a lot of that is that we're not including the work. I'm just going to say this.
Go ahead.
When I came in, people would just show up and Dottie would just put them to work. There was no schedule, there was no whatever, and no, that wasn't in the budget. On the day before election day, we had, I don't know, 10, 15 people in our tiny little office standing in a line waiting for instruction from Dottie. None of those people were budgeted for to work. This was all to prepare for the election. Our equipment,
Yeah.
poll
It
books.
was kind of all off the books.
Yes.
So,
So,
not structured,
not at all.
not.
Not at all.
I'll be bluntly honest with you, been bluntly honest.
Okay.
Before you came in, I was ready to go back to 6 hours and say, my personal opinion, that's it, I'm speaking blunt. I've listened to a lot of what you said. I've taken it to heart, personally, not for the board speaking, but personally. Because can we meet somewhere in the middle in this thing somehow? Is there some way we can meet in the middle and then review it after 6 months?
I think that you're gonna find that this isn't even touching it. because I actually looked up and I was like, what did, Marcia, can you put it back? What was the hours? Because it's not 1550.
It's not
24 hours
1550,
per
it was 12 a week,
12 a week times 2,
and then plus
it'd
the.
be 24
Was it
double,
18
right?
1860?
Oh, okay, so it is more than I think. Okay, so, sorry, I didn't see the total there. I saw the 9 and I was like, what is that? Okay, so that's actually more than we think. And this is just the generally accepted. There was like, you'll find if you Google it, registrars are getting raises all over the state because of early voting. Some other towns, in the articles, they all mentioned 1550, 1560, 1575. We're in the ballpark. I'm basing this based on that knowledge. Again, not a lot of record keeping. I don't know, but again, I can tell you, I've been working 27 hours a week. If I keep that track without any election hours, I think I came up with $14.40 a year. That's without any election hours.
So what's your measurables then? Your problem solver, what's your measurables? If we give you these hours, what's your measurables? How do I measure the hours versus the outcome?
Well, we'll track the hours.
No, the outcome.
The outcome?
The end-
I will tell you what
the-
the outcome. No, I'm going to tell you what the outcome
Okay,
is.
Tell me.
A fully functioning, efficient office. You're not going to hear any complaints in town hall anymore that the registrar's office is a mess. That's what I'm going to tell you.
And if not?
I guess we'll work harder.
No, I'm just asking the questions. I mean, great pitch.
Glenn,
but-
I guess what I would say is, have you been in our office?
No, I have not. been
Darn
in your
it!
office.
I wish you would. I wish you
I've heard a
had.
lot of stories about your
Yes.
office.
I wish you had, because if you had seen the way things were before January, and if you saw things way are now, you would be shocked.
I've heard a lot. Though.
Okay,
I
all right.
mean,
I would argue that the work that we've been doing has turned things around already. And we're not even into a referendum or an election yet. We have barely gotten started. Like, I have to tell you, I have to try to pull back from doing work because I love my job so much. And this
Oh, I understand that. I mean,
fuels my soul.
you say you put in hours. I probably put in quite a few hours,
I believe you.
unpaid hours
Yes,
for this.
because
job.
that's the kind of people we are.
I
Yes.
agree. I consider myself a problem solver
Yeah.
as well, so I'm not gonna
Yeah.
discount that. Like I say, when you first came in here, I was 6 hours. See you later. Goodbye. Have a nice day. My opinion. I mean, totally my opinion, not theirs. I'm sure they have different opinions, and they're all valued. I'm still struggling with that 12 as a jump, and I don't know how to.
Well, I think you're looking at it in the wrong way,
Probably.
respectfully.
I'm okay with that.
They weren't tracking the hours. So they were probably working more hours than 6 hours, more than 12 hours.
They might have been.
And so if you're saying a jump, it's only a jump in your mind. It's not a jump in reality. So they were working a lot of hours,
She
but
argues
not.
well. I'm not gonna.
She is. Because we don't know what the starting reality number was.
You're
If
very
they
good.
weren't tracking.
Thank you.
I still don't know if we can get there all
Well-
the way. I'm willing to work with you. My
Wait.
part, my opinion is, I don't know if we can get there all the way. I
I-
don't know.
I
But
understand.
I'd like the idea, I mean, if we
I
don't
have a
get all the
question
way,
too.
then if we at least reevaluate partway through the year and.
I actually have a question too.
Sure.
There's a jump in the department-specific outside services from 5,000 to 18, and I think.
Police.
Oh, actually, yes.
Can you tell us
So-
what that's about? Yeah.
Oh gosh. Actually, there's a couple of things. So we kind of have a little challenge. That's what's kind of added to my hours, quite honestly. The Board of Ed had voted to prohibit voting in schools, and so I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out where we can vote instead. When
I didn't know that.
yes,
So we no longer vote in schools?
we'll see. We're working with them. We're hoping that they will change their
Where
minds.
else could we go?
Yeah, exactly. But we're not going to talk about that. So
What, the moving the voting polls? Is that what you're saying?
yes.
Yeah, the Board of Ed asked her to look into it.
I
No,
mean-
they didn't ask me to look at it. No.
The police also,
They
the
voted
police
to not
also,
have voting in schools.
right.
Just to not
They
have
didn't want
voting.
to.
I'm going to get to it.
But we can work on that.
Yeah,
So before you go there, I'm
Okay.
sorry,
Yeah.
you talked primaries.
There we go.
These here, these hours, Did we remove a primary? What are these hours here? The 8 and the 7. Did we, what
For
did we do
early
with
voting, that's early voting
those? Early
hours.
voting. But it was for
That's-
primaries, right? So the primaries, did
We
we
took-
keep
we-
all the primaries in, or?
Yeah.
No, we
These
said
are-
that was contingency.
We took that out for contingency, but we didn't take it out of here.
Oh, okay.
So we left the, okay, so you left the primary in, this sheet.
So we probably should.
We
take
did,
it
when
out.
we prepared our budget, we prepared for a primary, one primary.
But we could have just moved it to contingency because you don't really know.
We don't know.
Correct, and the
That's
Board
right.
of Selectmen took the primaries out
Okay.
of the other
Goodbye.
lines, but not this one.
Oh.
Guess we're done.
Who was there?
I don't think anyone.
I think it was just timed out.
Yeah.
Probably.
So you were saying that the
The police. So there's a couple things. So previously we had money in the budget to rent space at the church. We took that out because we thought we were going to be moving back to the elementary school. That was our plan. Now everything is done there, the parking lot, the construction, everything, we are ready to do that. The Board of Ed made their decision, so we're working with them. We're hoping that they will change their minds.
So
The
the Board of
police-
Ed voted to not return it to CLES and to leave
No
it
voting in schools while kids are present. And that doesn't work for us because,
for the early voting.
period.
Got it.
So if we have a primary, we have to vote in the same place as we do on election day. I understand they have no school on election day, but on primary day, it would be in September, there would be school in
Right.
session. We also have to plan for, there could be a special election at any time. Someone could die, someone could get sick, someone could retire. We have no control of that. Same rules apply. When it happens, it has to happen in the same location as election day. So they thought that would be fine and we could vote elsewhere, but that's not how that's gonna work. So anyway, we're hoping to work with them and rectify that situation. The police, Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure that we always had police at polling, no, everyone's
We
shaking their heads,
just
no,
Added
okay.
it after the budget passed last year.
Because
We added it.
Yes, I think because it was a contentious year with the presidential, and there have been some issues that I've been made aware of in the past where the macro burst, there was trouble getting the ballots back here. Somebody got in an accident on the way from BHS once and the police would not let them come back with the ballots. And so these kinds of things, it is nice to have the police escort the ballots back to town hall. Is it necessary all the time? I can't answer that question, but definitely for this presidential election, we felt that it was necessary to have the police.
And I believe it was the police chief that recommended it.
Yeah.
The first one was for the referendum
Okay.
in May.
Okay.
And
Is
then
that correct?
also, utilizing St. Marguerite's, they require.
Oh, thank you, Kathy.
Oh, they
Okay.
do require.
So that's another.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes.
Be an insurance thing.
Okay,
Yes, they-
so St. Margaret's requires it.
Again, we're hoping,
So that's
really,
where that-
really
that's
hoping
where
that we
those-
can not do that anymore.
I mean, if you took the primary out, I think you could move 4,000 to contingency.
And also keeping in mind, we also have to plan or pre-plan for a second, I'm sorry, this is regarding the referendum. We always have to plan for a second referendum if the budget doesn't pass.
So,
Or, and then moving forward, if it, you
right, but the.
know, each
so-
time it doesn't pass.
But we didn't put that in our budget because
No.
that's a contingency.
Right,
And the
right, right,
variable
right.
part of your budget is the poll workers.
Yes.
You only have them when there are elections and when you need them,
That's right.
right?
Mhm.
So if this is not a primary year, and if this is not a year where you, would that 88,000, not 88, 77,000 still be needed? And again, I'm sorry that we're asking
It's
these
okay.
questions
No,
and
you're
saying
doing your
that
job. That's fine.
we're trying to be under 4%,
Yes,
and we're just
I
looking at
understand.
everything that we can. So that was my question. So we did budget. So last year was 61,000 for the poll workers. It was primary, and I'm not sure if that was.
Did the budget last year include the early voting or not?
No.
We didn't
Okay,
have.
that's what, that's the
budget
difference.
last-
No.
That's
The
the
budget last
difference.
year wasn't as accurate as
As
it
okay.
would be now.
Yeah, correct.
And so this schedule, that's schedule of hours, is just showing, these would be the number of hours for early voting for presidential. And then when we go to the over here we say number expected, well, we expect 0 presidential. That, and they worked through these hours to see that these looked right, and early voting hours for primaries, and then we go over here to say how many of those do we expect. And so this year, we're expecting an election for non-presidential, and we have to have the early voting with it. We're expecting a referendum. We did have a primary in there, and the selectmen, Board of Selectmen took that out. We were expecting, these are pretty insignificant, 4 town meetings and 1 high school registration.
2, we have to go twice a year, May and September, or before the end of the school year and then in September.
Well, then we're under budget by $86,000.
This is what I mean. This is going to keep happening. Next year, I'll be able to say, we didn't put this in and we didn't put that in. But right now, we're doing the best we can with what we've got.
You're saying you're pushing up the hill right now. What time do you reach the plateau? I mean, do you think you have 2 years of pushing to get through these figures? Is that or 4 years? Or I mean, at what time? If you're saying you're so far behind, at some point you got to catch up and it becomes maintenance.
I hope so. Yes. I don't know if I'll continue.
You gotta solve the problem, you can't just quit.
That's right. That's right. The paper.
That's the succession plan.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Eileen. The succession plan over there. So the paperwork is a challenge because we have to work with the town clerk and we have to work with the state library. I'm on their time frame. They say, no, you can't put that in records retention, or you can purge that, or I'm not sure what their systems are, but we have to fill out paperwork. We have to submit a request. They let us know. To be honest, it's not even ready for that. It's literally piles and piles and piles of paper in those, like you store your Christmas ornaments or whatever. I can barely live
And
without.
what do you have to do with those to get them?
Right, so we need to sort it. There's unused ballots. There's paperwork for the office, paperwork for the polls, all of that stuff we have to ask. Every single piece of paper, can we destroy this? And there's a schedule. You can destroy this in 4 years, you can destroy this in 10 years, you can destroy this in 1, right? So we have to consult the schedule, fill out paperwork. We have some things we have to turn over to the town clerk. Unused ballots, those sorts of
Something
things.
that high school students who have to get their community hours could volunteer in
Is
your
that
office to get it there, because you could go to the career center in the high school and just say, we're opening it
It's
up to
perhaps, we need to organize it first.
that. Okay, maybe they could help you organize it.
Yeah.
So the old ballots have to go. Explain that old ballot thing to me again.
Mhm.
So I want to understand that.
We can't just throw them away.
So what do you do with them?
We have to put, do you know there's a dead storage room downstairs?
do.
Yeah, all of that stuff has to go in there
But then you keep it forever.
until the records, there's a schedule. It depends what the item is.
So, for example, and Jules is working on these forms now, is there's just a one-page form, and we would, from finance, we would say, these are 20, and we have to go back 3 years for payable records, so it's 2021 invoices, and we'd look to make sure, and then we would say this is 2020 invoices, and group them and say this is what we want to throw away.
Mhm.
That,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah.
My understanding, I haven't done this process yet. I'm only aware of it as far as being trained and reading our manual.
All right. Any more questions?
I don't.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you, thank you, and I vote for your desk.
Thank you. Please get us, please.
Get the desk.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, thank you very much.
Good idea.
Thank you.
All right. We were talking revenues. All right, so just going through quickly, these are all the same size. You see there, your budget books, the increase in real estate, 1.83, that was pretty good, compared to the prior year. Personal property tax is not as good as the prior year motor vehicles, worse, than the prior year, we expected that. And so in total, we went up 1.04%.
How does the personal property tax, is there a reason behind that? There's
It's
a
probably
3%.
the depreciation schedules that, last year more people bought new stuff.
So,
And if we do the car tax at the 90%, could with that 11.02%
Yes, it
get
would.
better?
Yes, it
Yes,
would.
yes.
so go, keep to that line now, but we talked about this. How much does the grand list have to increase to give us a percent worth of revenue? Didn't we do that math?
We did that.
I saw her face,
We keep waiting for grand list to
All
help
I'm
us.
saying is we
A
keep
lot.
waiting for the grand list, but 100 million doesn't move it as much as you think it
No, it
moves.
doesn't.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Doesn't.
Everybody says, all of these properties are coming online and it sounds good. But 100 million doesn't move that needle as
it
much as
doesn't.
people think. So you need big moving pieces. So this, even though this goes up, the percent,
It's not
we don't get the,
It's never enough.
and if
Yeah.
you really look in, I started to look at the properties versus the police costs. Some of these properties aren't paying enough to cover the police hours. And they're, you know, to the point of, that's not moving our needle.
Yeah, and if
Great
you,
graph.
if you look at the graph, nothing moves until that revaluation year 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You can't tell the difference between any of these things.
No.
Yes, you can't.
And
no.
you, even the 4 years, the next 4 years are the same, flatline pretty much, a little bit, but flatlined.
Yeah, the 1% in total out of,
Yeah.
No, we probably will not with the motor vehicle, I don't know, if it's maybe, but, yeah. it's
No,
not-
that's what I'm saying. Everybody's waiting these grand lists and grand lists, but it's not gonna move our needle as much as we hope or wanna think.
Yeah.
We were doing the numbers and I was like, really? That's what
You
we,
need-
it's like collecting the cans. You need a lot of cans to get to a dollar.
yeah,
We need new sources of revenue. What can we do to get more revenue?
yeah, well, uh, we had some stuff in the town where I live talking about, oh, we're gonna tax this, we're gonna tax foundations. This one foundation's got so much money and, okay, the law doesn't allow that. But yeah, my senator put that in. Okay, please
I
don't
didn't think
vote
that was a thing.
all right. Tax collection rate, that, and if you notice that we start at 98%, so this is, all of this access is 1.5%. So we have tried to make it look different as much as possible. That,
You're stretching it.
we are stretching it. That, otherwise it would
She's
look
like taking the mouse,
Right.
move it in.
The first year was definitely pretty low.
Yeah, otherwise it would look pretty much like the last graph, all flat across,
Yeah.
and that gets boring to look at after a
Right.
while. But what we do is we usually use a collection rate based on the last 5 years average, which is 99.14%. For back taxes, we do it based on the outstanding. This is a really confusing graph.
That's a busy graph.
Yeah.
Very busy.
But this is how much we collected compared to how much was outstanding at the beginning of the year. That, and this is the percent between the two of them.
We did really good in 2022.
I was about to say,
That was the
so
collection
those
service.
years were really
That's
good. That, because we had really low interest rates and lots of people were refinancing and they had to pay off their taxes before they refinanced.
That's a good.
And if we look at the average of what we're doing, it's about 58% of the prior year's receivables balance, and so that's how we estimated our back taxes. And we've been doing that, and we've been we've been all right with it. And
This is changing.
this is changing, but I think it's for the next year, that it is our supplemental motor vehicle. The concept isn't changing, just the timing of the payment is changing. That we, what are people gonna buy? This is a tax on, if you buy all of us are taxed as of October 1st. If you buy a car on October 2nd, you don't save a year of taxes. We give you a supplemental motor vehicle tax bill, and it's due in January, and it's and so that would be an 11/12, and then in December it would be 10/12, 12th. And the timing of that is changing so that it's not all waiting till January of the next year. But that we put in at 740, which is I think exactly the same as we added this year.
Do we need to be more conservative with that, with not knowing what's happening with tariffs and carbon?
I think we, in this whole process, we probably have to think about that.
Was 2020, 2021 was the first year of like the big supply chain issues with motor vehicles, right? So people couldn't buy cars when they wanted to. Are we gonna run into that scenario again? Do we anticipate that we might?
They're beyond my scope now of figuring out.
Yeah.
I don't know, I
Markets
mean,
don't like uncertainty.
everything,
Yeah, I think
everything,
there is uncertainty, we just have to be conservative.
everything I'm hearing on my stuff is that people are still.
That's right, she deals with vehicles,
People are still just gonna buy it.
motorcycles.
Yeah.
People are gonna buy it.
Interest, the same thing, we just base it on the prior year's ending receivable balance, and 35% is the average of the last 5 years. Telecommunications equipment, this just came in yesterday, and I'm recommending, we had put a budget in of 65,000 based on the last number we had, which was the 2024 actual. We just got the 2025 actual this year, and it went down. This is the property taxes on AT&T and Sprint and things like that. And so in the draft budget for your column of adjustments, I think we should take 10,000 out of there.
Is that because the equipment, their equipment depreciates?
Yes.
Okay.
And it could be that somebody puts in all new equipment, like what
Yeah.
happened here, that, but wow, that depreciated fast.
Yeah.
But then again, it went, oh, that's our
Yeah.
budget,
And
sorry.
we're only
that's our
talking 10,000.
This is
Yeah.
the bad side though, move.
Yeah, yes it is. But last year we took advantage of the good side move, and I couldn't just delete that line. This is the governor's budget that we're budgeting. They give us the number for the state taxes based on his budget. This town side, the state grants, the town side didn't move. They're all state funded, not federal funded. Although if we all lose our federal funding, the state won't have money to pay
Yeah,
it anyway.
right.
And then this is the Board of Ed funding. It's just that one grant, the education cost sharing that we talked about, went up to 41. Building permits and land use, that we do it on a base fee, that, and then if it's over 25,000, we pull it out separately, and we try to do specific identification of those. So that's where we got on that one. We, not quite specific identification, there's about 350,000 or 365,000. We said, well, what if we did half of that came in, that because some will, some won't, you never know with developers.
So what number did you put in there then, the 435 plus the 165?
Yes, we did,
600?
yes.
And are we do we know, the coming year, are we having, and big projects coming up? Or?
That's the one, plus known fees, right? That's the plus 165, right?
That's
the
correct.
one
That's
that's
the
coming.
plus,
Correct.
That's
that's
the
what
plus
we know
one.
is coming.
That's one that we
That's-
know is
yeah.
coming. I'm based on, and understand, they took the average of recent and then they added what they know is coming. So that's the best guess scenario.
I guess, yeah.
Correct. And then the only difference here is blight fines, that in talking with the attorney, we said, are any of these blight fines coming in? And we haven't put those in the budget before. And he kind of gave a probability for each of them, that of what might come in before June 30th of 2026. And so we put that in the budget this year, that based on his estimate of how much and the probability.
What is our,
So you based it on how much of the probability, what probabilities did you use? Did you use a probability overall or probability individual?
Individually.
So say I was due 100,000 and I 65% probability. What number did you throw in? Was that a 0 or was that 65,000 of the 100,000?
I'll have to look at my book, that, but I believe it was, the ones that he didn't give us in the middle, that he gave us, this will probably come in, but it'll probably come in at 10,000 after negotiating it, or this will probably not come in, and so we didn't care what the amount was.
Okay, all right, fair
So,
enough.
I mean, we seem to be slowly chipping away at the blight problems in town. I'm sure that there are new ones that come up as the old ones get taken care of, but are we seeing that we have a little bit less to bank on? I mean, I know that down in the town center district, a bunch of stuff has kind of been taken care of, and except we still have a pile of rubble.
It's almost gone. It's almost
Oh, is
gone.
it?
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's
haven't
almost
driven
gone.
through there. Is it?
But yeah, I see what you're saying, some of the bigger
Yeah.
blight projects have been.
Yeah, we
had
had
our eye
two
on
big
this.
ones last, when I was in zoning,
Okay.
Board of Zoning Appeals, but I don't know if there are any new that are.
There are some new ones that have come in, that, different types of fees that, and I can't tell as far as how many are out there. I can just think of my accounts receivable listing that, and there's about 5 of them.
Okay,
that,
that's great.
But
But
on
those
on the
commercial-
revenue side though of the blight fees, you have legal costs to offset.
Right.
The
Yeah.
legal is not doing this for free.
We do have 10,000 of legal, correct. And so far, we have been able to move that legal back and forth, that we haven't had too much of an issue with legal fees.
And I
Okay.
feel like it takes a while, right, when a new one comes on to kind
Yes.
of get to that,
Years.
like, standpoint of actually taking blight money. So, and sometimes there's a house in my neighborhood that is consistently
Yeah.
boards
Well, I
up,
have one
takes
with
down,
this
boards
for
up,
sale
takes
sign
down.
on mine,
Yeah.
my next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Mr. Beecher's name's on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh.
Town clerk fees, we are, this year, you'll see in that revenue report, we are, projecting to be way over budget on our, sales of houses there, conveyance taxes. That, and we do this based on a 5-year average, or see if there's a trend. If it went like this over 5 years, we're not gonna do the 5 years, but, and then we review it with the town clerk to say, hey, you know, I think you can pull this off, that, and we review it with the tax collector too on her numbers. Interest income, this is one we were talking about before, that here's our interest income. You can see COVID was really a problem. That, and then we, 2023, the interest rates went up, we had a lot of money. 2024, interest rates are up, a lot of money. This year, we're still doing much better than budget, but not as good as the last 2 years. And so while this, budget, Dan DeForsac, shows, 1.6 million, it's still quite a bit less than what we've been receiving. It is more than last year's budget. Revenues, we've got other revenues. I skipped rent because that's just
Nice.
easy, but we've got other revenues that are, we look at miscellaneous revenue that, this is the one, it's just as bad to under budget revenues as it is to over budget revenues. And so a few years ago, we started adding 200,000. We don't know what it's
That
gonna
was
be.
Dan
Oh, yeah.
DeVort's role as well.
Yeah.
That was a Dan D role as well.
And I think we had put in 100 and just, well, like this, and he said, I think I should be 200. But there are things that so that 200, we don't know where it's coming from, but there are things that we get that, that we just don't know are coming in. That we've got a rebate on Eversource last year for the electricity for the new school. That a partnership transfer taxes, we just received one of those this year, that make up the 50,000. That interfund transfers, that we've got money that we pull in from other funds, that this year it's 68,000. And I wish I would be, have written this down a little bit bigger. That, to your point, Nahid, about the sewer assessment, that we have a sewer assessment for the first time a year or two ago for Candlewood Lake Elementary School sewer. We had money that the the building project gave us. And so what we're doing is taking, and the first year I think it was 50,000, we said, okay, we're going to take the 50,000 of the assessment and we're going to put in 50,000 of revenue. The second year we took the 50,000 of assessment and we put in 40,000 of revenue, just to kind of wean us off this revenue that's sitting in the other fund. So that's what that is. So 35,000 of the 68 is that revenue. And then the rest is opioid money. That we have opioid money, I think it's 262,000 that we're gonna get overall. Last year we used about 32,000. What we've picked to use is the audited final figure from June 30th of 2024. So we're not banking on money that we haven't received yet. And so that's how we've got that. That was 33,000 that we would offset. And this money does go out for 10 years, and I think that there are two big more settlements that we will be hearing about that, at least if I try to equate what I know about this to what I read in the news.
So go back up to the miscellaneous, because I've been listening to you speak, and so we're budgeting 250,000 this year in miscellaneous?
50 is for that other stuff. The 50, we would normally, the Dan Dvorak is 200,000.
Right.
And 50 is Kerma, many years, it's not guaranteed, but many years we get $30,000 to $50,000 of that. We get transfer tax. If you have an LLC that owns property, you don't pay a conveyance tax if you sell the LLC to somebody else. You pay this transfer tax, and we got like 200,000 one year. In that we got the 90,000 from EverSource. I think that, sorry, I keep stealing your papers here. I think that this year we've already, we didn't quite hit the 50. We've hit 47,000.
Okay, that's perfect.
So it's not anything new.
Correct.
No, thank you. That's a better way to say it. Absolutely, thank
I got you.
you. Yeah, no, you do.
Asset disposition, that we've had 20 in the budget, we've kept it at 20. And then the one-time revenue sources, that we've been taking money out of premium, out of ARPA, and out of the capital non-recurring, the Ricky principle. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll have something.
These people all have
I know,
legends.
I know, we just
Something
They have
Yeah.
legends.
We don't have, it's like, there's no one's like the Brianna idea. That never comes up.
They're legends.
That gets swept under the carpet because it didn't go so well.
Well, I'm excited that the school I used to be president of, a Montessori school, that finally my name was the QuickBooks password. It's not anymore. Don't try to get that. So this was what we used to cover the debt bubble. And last year we had to use all of the rest of that ARPA money. And we knew we would have to wean off of it as we went through. And so we used the restricted money first. This is two different premiums. You'll see on the next page. One of the premiums, it's $61,000 short of the total, because I think we're going to have to use that to pay the interest rate, the interest that they added to April of this year. And then some of the capital non-recurring fund balance that we have set aside for this. And then here's the money that we have set aside that as of June 30th, that in capital non-recurring, we had 2.2 million. We're going to use 1.2 million. We would still have $1 million left. But we don't want to use it all up this year, because then what do we do next year? And so that's where we were thinking, if we went from 2 million to 1.2 to 400, it would let us down easy and still leave us with a cushion if we needed it.
Yep, I like it.
ARPA's gone. And then the general fund, where do we think we're going to end with that? That here's our fund balance to start with. We have excess revenues as of this report today of $655,000. The Board of Ed, as of their January 31st report, needs $544,000. That's just the first grouping that,
But if we get the 200,000 from the state, that number goes down.
well, based on their report, yes, that number will go down. You see it right there, it excludes that
Right.
state money. So that number could go down. They had 4 buckets. One bucket was ours, one bucket was kind of the Neverland, the McKinney-Vento, and
Electricity and
the electricity. So we know that the electricity is here. We know we have money set aside for that. We have FEMA that we have contingency right now in our report of $295. We're working through the FEMA process, so we think we can bring that back into the budget. That's what we moved for the flooding. So if that's the case, that we would be short in covering their $544 by $88,000. If that 200,000 comes in, we've got it covered and we've got $120,000 more. But right now, the 200,000 isn't here.
Right.
That,
And that's just as of January. They haven't given us February figures, March,
correct,
April.
5 more months to go.
correct. And then, this is what we would have used in the budget process for capital, if you agree to that. That's what the, based on the selectmen's budget. That right now, we can't say that we're expecting a big underage in expenditures. The only year we really could say that was the year COVID hit and everything shut down. We had tons of extra budget money. We will have extra money because we can't go over budget on any lines. But we're not expecting an additional appropriation other than the one that's covered with the premium. So there will be money that we don't spend of expenditures, but saying now that it's going to be 200,000 would be irresponsible. And then we have our policy for fund balance, that some of it would be moved to that. So at the beginning of the year, we would have 2.6 million of fund balance. At the end of the year, we would have 2.7 million of fund balance, is our best guess right now.
Plus, if we get the 100,
What?
if we get the 200, we'll have more.
If we get the 200, we have more. And off the bottom of this page, I can send you it's in your book, the calculations of the percentages, because we want to try to keep the percentages. And we'll be watching that as we go through, so our percentages don't go down. But that's where we stand right here. And if this was the case, the percentages would go down.
We gotta
Sounds
protect
like
this, we really have to.
Budget increase.
All right. Oh, don't think you're done.
No, I just saying okay, meaning it was a small.
Just other things to note, I just wanted to go to your point through the big changes, that these are changes from last year to this year, 2025 to 2026.
These are expenses now.
These are expenses. Proposing to rearrange 2 union positions, Glenn talked about that before, it's budget neutral, but it is a change. Legal fees, we talked about that, the tax litigation, and union contracts. IT, they talked about that tonight. Registrar of voters, they talked about that tonight. Regional animal control wages and benefits increased. We pay 33% or 36% of that total budget. If we want to cut the budget, we learned a few years ago, if we want to cut one of these budgets, we've got to get all the towns lobbying, or majority of the
They all
towns.
have to cut it.
Yeah.
I think we tried that one year and then we ended up, the lake, we
Yep.
ended up having to pay it anyway because
Right.
everyone
Yeah,
else
if
does.
everybody agreed and we
Yep.
had to agree.
Yeah.
Employee benefits, unemployment, we've always had 10,000 in there. If we don't have, someone specifically identified, that's really, I thought should be more in contingency than there. That a lot of times, there's 1,000 that's been left, but a lot of times that we'll have somebody that works for us, Parks and Rec, and loses their full-time job, and they work for us part-time, so we get $50 here and is assessed a little tiny bits of money. So that's why some is left in there. Pension contribution, we talked about that. The police, we talked about the things that are affecting the police, the big things. Candlewood Fire, that went up 7,000. This is the year for more tires. The EMS, that's the ambulance, the 120 wages, 119, we talked about that. And we talked about how, I'm very excited about this, how excited I am that we agree this year on the wages, that using the percentages and calculations that we would agree. Public Works, they're going to be coming with you, but Highway went up because of an increase in salt and sand prices. Facilities went up here, and in Parks and Rec, a new cleaning contract. That recycling, that we can no longer dispose of the grindings for free with a vendor. We weren't just throwing them on the side of the road. That someone, Gray's Bridge something, was taking the grindings, which I don't even know what that, I think that's the trees that are cut up, but they're not
Mulch.
doing
They
that.
would do the
They're
mulch,
mulching,
yes.
yeah.
So now we have to pay to get them taken away. It's, but they'll be coming in. Parks Department, we talked about the outside maintenance. A new cleaning contract, we talked about moving the turf fields. Anything else that you want to talk
I
about?
feel that was the right thing to do, was to move from
Oh,
capital
yeah.
to maintenance.
Yes.
Because
It's
we
a
were trying
maintenance.
to, even when I was on there,
It's
we
a
were trying to
maintenance.
get maintenance
They do
items
that in
off
every
of capital.
company. And once it
Yeah.
becomes operational, it's operational.
It's
It moves out of
That's what it
capital.
is, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and the only other big one, I think we talked about this at a meeting, that really seems, because it's the same every year, it seems like we should take it out of capital, is the road maintenance. But we can't do that because of the schedule of it. The general fund budget ends at June 30th, and we still have road maintenance that we're
Right.
doing over the summer,
But
so.
we pay for that for cash.
We pay for it
So
with
it's a-
cash, but we have it in the capital
Because a
budget.
lot of people used to use maintenance under the bonding and bond maintenance, so they bond that 17,000 per year
Yeah.
and we pay it down the road. All right, it's 8:31, but let's do a couple things,
Okay.
if you all don't mind.
Yes,
If
yes,
you-
yes.
Let's go through a couple departments that aren't coming, that are small, that we could check them off, that you don't see any problems with, Marcia.
All right.
So let's run a line by line on departments that are small, that you see no glaring major issues.
Selectmen would be
Huh?
one of them that
That's what I'm saying. Go ahead, first select, go ahead.
Selectmen's Department, wages are, the one change is because of who signs off on the timesheets. We've moved some clerks up there, but it's not a new expense. So there's nothing exciting there. And then the rest, Steve cut the budget for legal notices and advertising based on what they've done in the past. That we've had a hard time getting history on this because we used to do the penny saver, and then we had, as soon as we moved over to the News Times, COVID hit and we were cut and we didn't have to do them for a year or two. So we're just trying to refine that.
And we're also looking at Code Red, so
A Code
is
Red
that
is in the
something
IT
that-
budget,
IT,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, that could be like a.
So the selectmen overall's budget went up 1.78% overall with the shifts, right? So,
Yep.
and there's not any big numbers that you wanted to look at, Nikki. It's all 2.5, 2.5, 4.8s are big,
Clear.
right? You're good. Color it in, done. Selectmen's good.
Board of Finance.
They do good on their budget.
They went down 11%.
Oh my God.
That,
See, the other departments should take heed of this.
yes.
Did we win?
Um,
The MVP.
in the past, that I hadn't fully committed to saving us $6,000 a year to do the financial statements. This year I am fully in that, and we've reallocated, the audit costs went up a little, we've reallocated them to be more fair, so it's not always coming on the town. I've shared that with the WPCA and the Board of Ed. And we have taken on, we'll do the arbitrage ourselves. We hired someone last year, we're gonna just kind of copy what they did now that we have more confidence, and so you are down.
Okay, before we go any further, I also want to make clear to the town and whoever's watching this is, we see these numbers every month. We see your department numbers every month, so this isn't like new stuff for us. So even though we seem like we're going through it, we're pretty familiar with a lot of these numbers already. This is just a check to make sure it all makes sense going forward. I don't want people to think we're skimming over it, but we get Marcia's financials on a monthly basis. We all have a chance to review it. We've been privy to hiccups and whatever along the way, so this cursory review is just a double check. Almost with what Nahid was saying is, what numbers seem higher out of a whack that we'll talk about. So I don't want, as we're going through these departments fairly fast, I need people to understand that we are pretty familiar with these numbers.
And quite frankly, none of them changed much year to year.
Yeah, I just want to, we're going through it just as we're all on the same page and we all see them at one time, but I don't want the public to say, oh, you went through it. We know these numbers, so go ahead, I apologize. So we're on to finance now, right?
Finance hasn't changed, so let's skip that.
Okay.
That's right, yeah.
Assessor went up 1.63%. The big drop is here, that is the CRT, that's the
software.
company that was, I don't know why it's in software, but it's the company that was going out and looking for unregistered motor vehicles that,
That
they
was the
think
50-50 rule, right?
that, yeah, the 40-60 on this.
Okay.
And that company, we've stopped doing it now and give it a break, that it's something that we think we've saturated it. We still owe a little bit, and that's accounted for in the revenues, that,
Okay.
because they get their revenue for 3 years.
And your big number was,
So their overtime went,
Postage.
I guess, doubled in the last 2 years. I'm just seeing the numbers. There was 4,800 in the year 2023, 2024. And maybe there's,
didn't see it.
the year before, not, it was 4,800 and it's
Software,
9,000.
that's it, right here.
So it's been
That's
equal.
right.
We talked about bringing it down, and she didn't think we should bring it down yet. That, but I can't exactly remember why she said that.
So I'm wondering what the discrepancy is.
Yeah,
That's,
I'm
we'll ask
seeing-
Marcia. Hold on, Marcia, we got a
I'm seeing
question.
the same thing.
So on my computer and on your computer right now, it's 1.63, but on
Was
the
that,
printed,
it was the selectman adjustment?
I don't think, we don't have
the
any.
selected
Yeah,
adjustment
yeah.
at
That's the
500
problem.
only though. Is that gonna move it that much, 500
No.
bucks? That's the only adjustment I see. is
$5,000.
No.
Yeah, but the Board of Selectmen,
You see 1.77?
1.77,
I
yeah.
got 1.63.
And our binder has 3.23, so I'm trying to
Right.
understand what changed.
So the binder is based on,
Steve's.
the binder is based on before any, the department budget,
Yeah, that's
3.23.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
$5,000
Got it.
adjustment by the
shirts got
selectmen.
taken out.
What's your
Yeah,
total
that's right.
expenditure
And that's the software that we were talking
Um,
about.
on the
Yeah.
assessor? What's your total?
349, 311.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes out to 1.63. You having a change of what,
She's got it
5,000?
1.63.
I have 1.63.
Oh,
She's got it right there.
She said something different.
yeah.
Oh,
Right?
sorry.
Okay,
Am I
yeah, yeah,
missing?
no, I heard, I wasn't looking up there, I heard the same thing that you did.
All right.
I see
Oh, sorry.
1.77, but I guess.
All right.
Oh, that's, the 1.77 is before the Board of
Okay.
Selectmen's adjustment, so.
So you might have an older.
You might have an older one, because they.
Would you
it's
like another copy? I can send that to you too.
I will download it from Steve's email.
It's in
All
Steve's email, yes.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
so we're good on
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Assessor's good. Oh wait, what did we decide on the overtime? Wait a minute. We were looking at numbers. Let's
So,
talk about that overtime.
So the overtime, I really liked your idea of doing a pivot and seeing what the overtime for the town was. And I can do that tomorrow and bring it in. And then, I don't know, as a board, if we wanna say that we wanna see if we can save 10% of the overtime overall, or 15%, I don't know. That's something that we can talk about and say.
So what was the cause of this overtime? Because I was looking at the number. I got caught up in the number and I apologize. I was wrong.
A few things on the pivot, you don't need to do a pivot because it's already totaled in that schedule that you have.
Okay.
In the back of your book, and in your thing, and I can send it in Excel.
Okay.
That is the year-to-year analysis of payroll. It's second to the last tab, I think. Unless you
So-
took your book
you're so
early, then you don't have it.
I gotta look at this, because I gotta play.
Yeah.
I gotta play.
And I was just seeing if I had written anything down on her overtime. But the second thing about overtime that we want to look at, we don't want to just say, oh, it was here before and here. Every one of the overtimes or of the sporadic, we did an analysis of the last 3 years, 5 years, I can't remember how many years, to see what it should be. For
Okay.
example, Parks and Rec used to have certain people that would come in to be seasonal workers. Well, those people have graduated from college now and they don't come in anymore and they can't find the seasonal workers, so they're using overtime instead. So we did look at each one of them, and it's on the report for the budget workbook. So let me look at overtime.
So,
I didn't do it. No.
following Nahid's thoughts here,
I didn't.
then the
Right.
department's specific outside services were 16,825 last year, and they're 26,000 in the original budget. Department request is 2895.
Yep.
It's up 8.5%.
But that's a GIS project,
Right.
so that's a specific thing. There's a note in the binder. It's a GIS project, so that's accounted for.
So this though is a 1 year? What's a GIS project entail?
That's like the mapping stuff.
Yeah, that's like the GIS mapping.
I get that, but is that a 1 year cost and that this is gonna go away next
Yeah.
year?
I'm going to ask that question.
I think when if there's a way to say this is a one-time thing and not a recurring, I think it would just help next year, following year, to know.
A lot of times those are in the worksheets.
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. Here we go.
Oh wait a minute.
Maintenance. GIS company that maintains our site and completes 2-year updates a year for our map changes.
So what does that mean? Read that again and explain it to me in English.
I have two. It says here, Vision Government Solutions 6+ user. This is the company that we use for housing all the real estate data, cost schedules, reevaluation, GIS. That's 9719. Vision Government Solutions, web hosted for public access. That's 3469. Quality data. I'm just reading everything that's in the. Oh, that's in technology.
Yeah, it's.
Sorry, that's my bad.
Sorry.
I don't know if I have one for the.
I figured and GIS or work changes and new maps. It's a priority item, it's an attachment, it's not one time. New maps and DODs are filed each year and the updates are,
So it's an
the
annual, it's
updates
an
are, it's
increase.
an annual.
Right.
Are they coming in?
It's
No.
only $2,000,
No,
but I
it's
mean,
not.
it's explained
Okay.
there. It's
But I
a-
can ask her to.
No.
No,
And
no,
the
no.
difference
That's fine.
between,
We're
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
the difference between the actual and the budget is we didn't do vehicle audits. That is in the budget for 23-24, but it did not happen in the actual.
That's the overtime?
No, the vehicle audits.
Okay.
In the
Okay.
outside services.
All right, all right. I mean,
Oh.
that's, just ask the question, but
We-
I don't,
it
other
didn't
than
get
that.
posted.
Overall,
Yeah,
they're
it didn't get
1.7,
posted there.
1.6.
Yeah, I know, overall, it's
Sorry.
not that big. And then
Yeah.
the number really went up the prior year, 16 to 26. This year it only went up 2,000. I didn't say 8%, but it went from 23, 24, from 16.8 to 26. So that jumped. So it's really not 1.6.
But then the 26 became 28, so I guess the question is that, is this number going to change year over year?
Correct.
Like you said, you know,
Yeah, but I agree. Let's ask the one question, but I don't think
Yeah.
other than that, there's much
Yeah.
on that. All right, go on to the next. Appeals looks really hard.
A Board of Assessment Appeals that went down based on this is the clerk's time, that the clerk, it went up for a little bit after reval, and it's not much anymore.
Down 56, they win the prize.
They do, they do, they do.
Down 50, all right,
And
tax
it's only
collected
$1,500.
Tax collected,
went down too.
but do we wanna wait on that, cause it's got a big change with the same with finance?
All right,
Yes.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
move on. Legal?
Legal?
Legal has a big change.
Yeah.
Well, let's
40
talk about it. I mean, it's so many it's not that many line items. What's the big change?
So the two
And
items,
41% up, so.
tax litigation, that's that lawsuit that, that will be, it's happening over the summer, the next fiscal year, that, and the attorney estimated 30,000, and then the labor attorney, that
Yeah.
it depends on, if we take both of them all the way through arbitration, it's gonna be over budget, that, but we took the midpoint of his estimates.
This is the one that,
That's
the
the
town.
20,000 or the $65,000?
That's a 65 is.
What's the
That's the labor.
$20,000 line?
That's,
That's
the
the
20,000
tax one.
is the tax,
Okay.
revaluation case.
So these are also somewhat
Kind of one-off.
One
high-end one-offs.
Correct.
and there's no choice here, it's
No.
happening.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
part of the litigation, so.
Yep.
Or we could agree to the union for whatever they want, and then we don't have.
Probably
No.
more expensive.
Probably.
But
Yeah.
it could come in less.
It could
Oh,
come in less.
absolutely.
Yeah, and we took a decision
But it's-
here,
yes, we
and
did.
we wanna fight this, right? This is the
And
same
it's-
one.
it's-
I'm
a
okay.
one-off. This is okay. I'm
All
okay
right,
with this.
legal's fine. We don't have
Yeah, it's a
we're good
one-off.
with legal.
Yeah.
Good.
Personnel, that, it went up based on, just the slight difference between, it costs more to do an actuarial report of, the pension than it does OPEB, and we alternate each year. So that's the difference.
So wait, on the non-union wages,
That went up earlier in the year because of a certification that, and so you approved that.
oh yeah, never mind.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
good, I'm
Uh,
good,
just
thank you,
wasn't in the
thank you,
budget.
thank you, perfect.
Green.
IT we went through today, right? I don't think we had a problem with what they said, I think.
So I do wanna say that,
Go ahead,
yes,
say it.
yes, the website is a great idea. It is always going to, it's always good to, and we are saving 12,000 with the seamless doc, so that's great. But the code red, and, so it's 30,000, and that's where I'm thinking, should we put this as a,
I think the website is important, but I don't know about the code red. Once for some odd reason, when I saw the code red, it jumped out at me at 6,500, I was like, it was a little more shocking to me than I guess I didn't know how much it was in the beginning, and as we've learned in the past, this does seem to be a who's ever in office want or need. When 2 years ago, the first selectman didn't decide that it was important, and now this first selectman feels it's important. So to me, it's like 6,500.
I just wish, because I know that we always hear that complaint of, I didn't know about that, and I think a landline phone call is something
But I
we all get.
People don't have landlines.
No,
that
but
much
you get a
anymore.
text message too, so I think there are people
Yeah.
that actually will get a communication from the
I-
town that don't otherwise get information, so
Yeah.
I see the value. I question too, like how often does it get used, but then we had
Right.
the flooding event,
Yes,
right?
if
That
there's
was-
an emergency,
I
then
know
you
It's
would
not
have
gonna be a
it.
pandemic where
Yeah.
they just send out weekly newsletters, but there are definitely things that are happening in town with.
I will tell you, the website concerns me more if they are going to stop supporting
Yeah.
the repairs and the content. So they've been trying to get us, that's what I seem to take
yes.
from them, that they're not gonna support the content and the repairs. So if the website breaks or it goes down, it's better to be proactive than reactive. So I think we've been kicking the can down the road for a long time, it sounds like, and now there's no more road to kick it down.
My only question about the website is I didn't get the impression that there were like bids, it was put out for bid to see what other options were. It was like, we know that we like this product and this is the price that they gave us and this is what a lot of municipalities use, but I don't feel like they
Yeah, I
went
think
through
it was
the
the main
process of.
municipality, right?
Okay.
So that's the only question. I
So
have on
this
it.
is what we do. We ask that question. Marcia's taken the notes already. Was it bid out? And then Marcia, in your notes, since you're doing such a wonderful job, let's put code red down as an asterisk, and then when Steve is here,
Just
we ask
asking
him
about it.
his need for it.
Mm-hmm.
If he can give
Yes.
us a,
I mean, I like
a
it, you're
solid
right.
answer of
Yes.
why he feels, and then
Absolutely.
it falls
I
into,
was, yeah, I was just gonna say, if we hold off to this one till we are finally figuring out our
Right.
numbers, and also this, the line, okay, 1 second, the 27% increase, which is the departments, the computers, right? There's a, I think Steve got 5,000 off, they asked for 28,000, it's down to 23,000. I'm thinking we could do 15,000 here, instead of, I'm just saying, if we had to do rental, if we had to kind of,
I thought that we were on a replacement schedule a few years ago. We've had
I
conversations
feel like
about
we've had
laptops.
conversations, but it's never come to fruition about, I think it's just, but I
I'm
don't know.
gonna say it, I think we're more organized this year than we were in prior
Yeah,
years.
no, I
Yes.
agree.
So we
Yes,
have to,
I agree.
sort of,
Yeah.
it's come from a point where we didn't know what we had, and we
Yeah.
asked a lot of questions and went back and forth.
Yeah.
It's now organized, so I think in a way we got,
yeah.
but you know what, let's do,
Let's
you
see
are
if it was-
highlighting, I was just
but
gonna
yeah.
ask you to highlight
Yeah.
the cells. You're reading
And I
my
think-
mind, and that's
I
not
think with
good.
the code red,
That's not good.
Yeah.
I think if it stays, not that we can, I think it should just stay. It should just be a part of maintenance, because taking it away and then bringing it back, maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe you're spending more upfront to get us caught up on it versus, and so I would just say
Yeah.
it should just be, if it's gonna be.
Let's hear Steve on it,
But
let's
on
ask the
exactly.
question, let's hear
On the
Steve.
hardware replacement cost, a lot of that was also like extra accessories, so it wasn't really the full amount
Yeah, it
for
was
actual
monitors and
computers.
cables,
Right,
so.
right.
Yeah.
I, you know how, there's some savings to be had everywhere, and if we just kind of in our hands.
No, I agree, ask the questions, I have no issues.
So we're not coloring this one green.
No, we're not
No,
coloring
no,
that
not
with
yet,
green.
Yeah.
Now, I did have a question, and I didn't know if I'd get an answer out of them, and not in a bad way, is, can we buy computers on volume if we're buying 12? It's like if the school's buying 50, and
So,
even though,
I don't know what the town requirements are, but as a business owner, I've done this all the time, even the website, but I guess the municipal, whatever. But, the costs are obviously higher,
Yes.
from the market, right?
Yes.
But again, the specs might be different for the town, and I'm not aware of that.
And costs might be higher still this coming year with tariffs.
Right.
but I know if I buy
So-
10, I get a 10
I
price.
get a volume discount, for
If I buy
sure.
25, I get a volume discount.
Yes,
If I buy
yes.
50, I'm negotiating it down a little bit
Absolutely.
more. How many does the school buy on an annual basis? Or is it because it's education money, we can't mix it?
Education money, as I understand it, the education money has some special perks that they get that we don't get to take advantage of on the town side.
Which is why they also said they kept the library separate, because the library can apply for some things
Yeah, education.
that the town
So we
can't.
can't get a volume, all right.
But the other,
We
the
can
other
ask.
question too, I know that they
No, but
they
this
have
is only
software.
town, right? Library is separate, school is separate, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This whole budget here is just the town, so
Yeah.
here we could do the bulk buying volume discount, if there is a way to do that.
Bless you.
Thank you.
That's-
The other question I have regarding that is if, I thought that they did use different database things, but a lot of things, databases have moved to cloud, so you don't need to have the processing capacity on a computer.
You don't.
Are they over?
I was
Or
stressing on access.
So,
Access
yeah,
is
I
20
ordered
years
that-
old.
That's exactly what I was saying, that for most people
Yeah.
in the office today, you need to be able to surf the web, go to your email and everything, and be able to do Word documents and Excel files, simple,
Right, no power users.
80% of, that's my assumption here, 80% people do not need a fancy
Yeah.
computer. Even I don't need a fancy computer, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you need to be processing a
This is
lot
my
of
new
data.
one. This is my new one. I got this
Yeah, you need to
yesterday.
be processing a lot of
I think I got
data
the same
to
one.
be needing that kind of memory and that kind of storage and that kind of, so I do think that there's room, but again, if the town requirements are certain.
But they did say they were looking at that. They moved some licenses from high users down to low.
Yes, which
So
they did.
this is what I'm trying to say is,
Yes.
I think in that area, they're more organized than they've
They
ever
are.
Yes,
been.
yes.
And it's
Definitely.
going in a
And
really
maybe
good
we go back with the
direction.
feedback and say, maybe we just go back with feedback and say, can you do volume buying when
It
laptops?
seems like a
Can you do,
very good team.
Yeah,
I put it
Right.
down.
yeah, that's what
I
yeah.
think though that's
Thank
somewhere
you.
they are heading in the right direction,
Yes,
so.
yes, absolutely.
All right,
yes.
on to the next one.
The next one is town clerk.
Yep.
It went up 3%, just some additional costs, including, in software is that program where you can sign up, which all of you should do. in case someone is trying to sell your property.
Oh,
and-
yes.
Yeah.
That's
do
needed.
that.
That's
Um,
definitely needed.
I
And
think that's
I
needed.
need to see.
there was a
Remind me when you do yours.
next priority form that the selectmen did not put in, it's for wage adjustment.
So, back to IT a little bit, and you just brought up software. Have we ever done, and is it even a service, because I don't know, an audit on how we can maybe automate some of these systems to a platform that becomes usable for the town and usable for like I know they started with the website, but we got access, we got different things. Is there some way, is there a service that can come in and say, hey, we should move to this, and it would be across the board? I don't know, I'm asking. I have no idea.
The only type of thing that I'm thinking of that you might ask about as far as the town is that there's like budgeting software that,
It's not budgeting software, but we're doing so many, like we got the registrar's office with cards. I mean, if there was a software we could do the cards, and that would also go into all sorts of town clerks' files, and then they would, I don't know what's out there, but we seem to be doing a lot. We're working on access.
Well,
We're
no, I
working
mean,
on
that sounds like it's all
cards.
historical stuff. I mean,
Right.
and I
It's a
think
few
that, I
people.
think the registrar stuff is state mandated right now.
Okay.
Hopefully the state mandates change to become more electronic, but then the security issues with that too, right?
I just
But
feel
no, I
we're-
like the idea.
I don't know what we have,
But
so how
like
do
the
you
land
get?
use office, I mean, they've moved to online permitting, and they talked about that last year, but we used it ourselves, and that's reduced a lot of paperwork.
And you used it?
Yeah,
Okay, that
yeah,
works.
it works, yeah.
And that had
And
that.
you get an email notification, like
But where do
it's-
those records go to though? And then are they accessible through, I'm just trying to say is how do we make?
Yeah, because I was able to look up like sewer, like septic tank tickets and stuff like that.
Okay,
So,
perfect, never
yeah,
mind.
I think they
Questions
have
answered,
automated a
thank
lot
you,
of things.
move on, perfect.
I
So the
think
town,
COVID prompted some of that actually.
yeah, so what was the town clerk's big move? It's 3% overall, but,
3% overall of the software, that new program.
done.
And then the pricing
Mhm.
of COTSOC, the company that we use.
okay. Register of voters, we talked about that tonight, that'll be more discussion and
Yes.
thought process.
Land use planning, it went up 2.38%. The only thing that's in there that was a one-time thing was the 6,100, oh, you weren't here for that meeting, sorry. $6,100 for, she came to the selectmen, for a flyover that,
Oh, yeah.
the land use, the land records need a flyover that she'd like to do it every 3 to 4 years. And Westcog did it the last time, they're not as detailed, and this is just my trying to remember what she said. They're not as detailed and they don't do it as often, and it makes a difference when you're trying to use the records that, oh, this land now has 3 roads on it, and before it was a farm.
Okay. So it's 2.38 overall.
Okay, I do have to pick Zoya at 9, so.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, I'm
almost
sorry, I
done.
didn't know that, I
Really.
apologize.
No, that's okay, you guys can continue, I just.
You wanna continue a little or no? I mean, since we're here, go through these quick. Alright, thanks, Naheed.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, we can stop then. We can make a motion to adjourn.
just a few.
Or we can do them tomorrow night.
Let's get, we'll finish
All right,
the tab.
you're,
Yeah, because I finished the blue.
Yeah, yeah.
Or no.
That's color, so it's 3. I love color.
All
I'm
right.
getting to the end of the row.
that's fine. If you wanna get to the end of the row, so thanks, Naheed.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, land use building went down in their costs, so their up is just salaries. They did add $1,000 of overtime, which we have been paying because of we didn't add a new position that, in there. The property insurance went down a little bit. And I can't remember exactly why, but these are the best estimated costs. I think it's because we thought that's why. We thought last year the cyber was going up 10%. It actually went
Right.
down 5%, and that's why this the budget looks like it's going down. It went down 5%, and then we put a 5% escalation. All right. Conservation Commission, they went down in total.
Do we know if they still have the grant from Education Foundation for the invasive species?
I can tell you because we do a
We have a
report.
grant list. We have a grant
Oh, we have
report
it.
list.
We have a report that we do for many of the departments. We do a monthly report for their budgets now. They are one of them. All of these departments, Conservation Commission,
So I know we're trying to hurry a little bit here, but to elaborate on that in case someone watches. Every month you meet with the departments, these departments.
every quarter we
Every
meet with the
quarter.
departments, but some departments, NBC, Conservation Commission, Library, the ones I can think of right now, ask for us to prepare a monthly report that would show them, each of their grants, their general fund, their special revenue funds. If they've got different pockets of money, could we do a report that shows that? So up here, you'll see here's their general fund. This is as of December 31st. Their general fund, where they stand in their budget. And it's just all on one page. This is the rental fund. They've got the properties, the appropriation. We have to have something in QuickBooks, and we have a policy pending that we would like someone to look at for that. But this is what they have for actual revenues coming in from the rental properties, and then the expenses property by property. And then this is one of their grants, Education Foundation. It was received last year, so there's no revenue. And this was the balance remaining there this year. That they also have an invasive
That's what you asked about, the invasive species.
Oh, I'm
Species
actually meant
grant.
the native planting one
Oh.
for, but yeah,
Um,
I'm trying, the scouts, we
so-
want to work together with them.
Yeah. They had 984 at the beginning of the year, and they spent it sometime during this year. And that's all their different pockets.
Thank you.
See, there's a good tracking of it.
Yep.
You asked the question, you got the
Yeah.
answer.
Like, it's, snap
There you
of a
go.
finger.
See how
It's
that
crazy.
works?
Yeah.
You could follow like every dollar pretty
Uh-huh.
much through
The-
town.
we've
Well, I
gotta
want,
be
that was a
able-
good exercise for them
Yeah.
to see, that you asked the question, the answers are there, it's tracked.
Yep,
You pay us to follow every dollar.
and you do a fabulous job with it.
No, I think that was a good exercise for
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
could see. All right, so we're good with them. They're-
And Steve cut their budget and talked to the chairman, the cranky old guy. No, I'm only kidding.
Wow.
They had a budget for tree cutting. They haven't used any yet this year. That if we need to, we can do an encumbrance at the end of the year, and he didn't think they needed the same amount next year.
Where is that cut? I don't see that.
2,000 in the first selectmen adjustments.
Oh, right there, I see it now, yep, right here.
Economic Development Commission, quite boring.
It's quite boring.
No change.
No change.
But they're the ones that are gonna be working on the survey that we just did, POCD, right? That's,
Yep, and the POCD is in the capital budget.
okay.
Community development,
Community development, again, pretty boring, no change other than the normal payroll change. Regional memberships, there are a few small changes. Steve can tell you more about the regional animal control. He went and did a deep dive into their budget and met with them.
Yeah.
Didn't that just
He's,
flip a couple of years ago too?
it changed a few years ago because New Fairfield left.
That's right.
Oh.
The-
so how do we leave?
You need
You'd
to
have
get
to
an
have our
animal,
own.
you have to have your own animal control officer.
Yeah, we don't want that.
And your
13
own place to house
no,
the dogs.
We're good, never mind.
Exactly.
Yep. And then regional probate, he just had some issues with that, and that the rent keeps going up, so he was gonna talk to them about, maybe a multi-year lease, and it's, they rent from the city of New Milford, and the
That's
question
right
is,
there on that road.
Yeah, and the question is, maybe we have a place to rent to them, for them.
Center School.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Light, nothing.
Yeah,
Those
no.
benefits.
But I should point out, CCM dues has not changed in 5 or 6 years, and they give us back money.
Nice.
Where we at? Oh, on them, okay. Yeah.
Blight that, we had 3,000, it was really a contingency in case they have to board up a building, so that's why we cut that back. Try and remove any little contingencies. Employee benefits, we probably shouldn't turn green because we're hoping to hear any time on the health insurance.
No.
I agree with
That's
that.
not good. All right, that's a good stopping point.
I think so, we got through all of them.
You good?
Oh, good.
I mean, in reality, there ain't that many more departments.
No, and we
It's a big
stopped at the police and they're coming tomorrow night, so it'll be good.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned.